You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hardcore facts about the Watchtower Society. Disney.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome in to the Six Screens Telenetwork, our JW World News program. Well, my name is Rick Farron. I'm coming to you from the apostate capital of the world, right up here in Boston. Well, man, I am telling you, things are really going on. I'm getting very, very excited. I'm not looking through rose-colored glasses, but every week we've been doing this program now, like I say, going on 20 years. It'll be 20 years, and that'll be January 26th. We'll be on the air here for 20 years. We've never missed a Saturday night. We are here because you are here. This is like a giant therapy session where people can come in and they can talk in real time. And that's a neat thing. There's a lot of YouTube programs and they all do a wonderful job. But for people to be able to call in real time, it really, really makes a difference. It really can get people to become connected. When you're one of Jehovah's Witnesses and you're just fellowshipped and you're thrown out of the organization, you are disconnected. But this can bring people together. So anyways, I'm glad you're with us tonight. I'll just talk about a few things. We won't belabor it. We have a lot of news to cover tonight, but I'm just going to talk about a few things here I think that can be of interest. We do have the duck. When we have the rubber duck, now when the duck comes down, so to speak, and he hears a word from people calling in, we have a secret envelope here, sealed envelope with words in it or phrases. And if during the program tonight, anyone says that word that's in the envelope or that phrase that's in the envelope, you automatically get 5 points during the program. That can get you a book. We get some beautiful books. How about this book right here? The Bible for the Scientist. This is a Watchtower publication. Have you ever heard of this one? It's by W.L. Van Amberg. And this book, I should say, deals with the pyramids and how Russell was so connected to the pyramids in Giza. This is all about how he came up with 1914 and how he did that from measuring the pyramids of Giza and coming up with a date. And then we got another book here, The Way to Paradise. This, I believe, is one of the most foolish books ever written in the Watchtower. This is a J.F. Rutherford book. And this is so crazy. This is about a couple that survived Armageddon and they went into Paradise Earth and they wake up the next morning and all of a sudden they're on Paradise Earth. They're in the new world. What a nutty book this is, but it's a good book. It shows how foolish the Watchtower is. And of course, everyone here recognizes this book, Millions Now Living Will Never Die. All of these books, by the way, have been given to us by James Hill. He's a former Jehovah's Witness, and everyone knows him as Nathan Natus on JWN Discussion Board. But we want to thank Jim for doing this. But this book right here is written by Rutherford as well, Millions Now Living Will Never Die. All of these books, by the way, are in its entirety. Nothing has been changed. It's all verbatim. Everything is exactly the way the original book was. And this is one of my favorite books. This one right here. My wife, Susan, actually helped her come out of the so-called truth from reading this book here by Don Cameron, Captives of a Concept. So if you say the secret word and you just call in tonight, call into the program. Who knows? Well, you don't know what the word is, but I'll tell you if you said it, you get 5 points. So I'll be listening, and then you can get a book. But if not, if nobody gets the secret word at the end of the program, you all know the game here. We play the duck game, and we'll give you some clues. We'll give you some questions you answer, and you can win some points. You have to be the scorekeeper. You be honest with your points. You can win some prizes. You can win magnets. You can win a book. Or you can even win $100. You get points for every question you answer. We've already given $100 away a couple of times. So thank you. Thank you for understanding how the game's played, and thank those that do play it. And also, I want to talk about the convention. I'm going to put across this YouTube's feed that we have here, as well as our Facebook feed. You'll see it come up here momentarily, but it has to do with the convention, our Still Alive in 2025 convention. You want to come up here to Boston, friends? We're going to have a convention in August. Now, I know a bunch of people wrote tickets in. You'll have them. I'm sending them out tomorrow morning. There's people that said, Rick, I haven't got my tickets yet, but I'm still going through the list. We have very close to 300 people that already want to come to the convention. It's going to be at the Hilton Hotel. It's up here in the Boston area. And boy, what a time we're going to have. Can you imagine being with people that are just like you? People that have been touched by the tentacles of the Watchtower? What an exhilarating feeling. You are going to be walking out of there, as we say, you're going to be hitting your head on the doorpost on the way out. So if you want a ticket, we have room for 500. We have 3 in the main auditorium, 300 that is, in the main auditorium, and we have 200 in the adjacent seating area next to the auditorium. You'll still be able to hear. You'll be able to see on hopefully a big screen TV as well. But we want to have you come up here to Boston. Come up here and have a vacation. Well, what's the matter with coming to Boston for a vacation? Hey, have you ever been here before? You can see Lexington, Concord. That's where the Revolutionary War started. You can get into Boston, see where Paul Revere rode. Are you into history? Maybe that doesn't, that might not do anything for you. But how about the mountains? You like seeing mountains? You can see them right in Western Massachusetts as well as up in New Hampshire. And how about the beaches? You like beaches? We got some really good beaches here. We got Cape Cod. And, oh, my goodness. You come up here. You won't be sorry. Bring the kids. Kids are also invited. The tickets are free. And if you, I'm going to put that up on the bottom. It's not there yet, but I'll put up that scrolling. Well, let me do it right now while I'm thinking of it. So if you really want to get more information on the convention, well, by all means, check the 6 screens of the watchtower.com out, 6 screens of the watchtower.com, and you'll be able to get more information on the convention, when it's going to be. It's going to be August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2025. And the theme is Still Alive in 2025. Well, it's scrolling across the bottom now. Check it out. Write for the tickets and see if you can't make it up here to Boston. All right. We got through that. We got a lot to talk about tonight. Well, let's start right here. I think this is a good place to start. Now, it's being said out there, but I can't confirm it. I mean, don't take it to the bank and cash it. But it is being said out there that they are no longer very shortly going to not announce when a person is disfellowshipped. Now, I know in recent years they haven't said that, Rick Farron's been disfellowshipped for conduct that's unbecoming of a Christian. They used to say that. They don't say it anymore, but what they have been saying up till now is Rick Farron no longer is one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Well, they're going to get away from that. They're going to try to, from what the information coming into the 6 screens is saying, that announcement, they don't want to do it anymore. I guess they're just going to send a message through shunning people without announcing it, I guess. But there's a letter that's been sent to some congregations, not all, but some congregations are receiving a letter that they no longer want them to announce disfellowshipping, or a person is no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. That's taboo. And that information seems to be being circulated by circuit overseers. What the Watchtower does, friends, that they send off trial balloons, that they really can't, make a blanket statement. All congregations no longer will say a person is not a Jehovah's Witness. They can't do that. They got to try to send a trial balloon up to make sure it doesn't blow up in the organization. So certain places, certain congregations will hear this. The circuit overseers evidently are in charge and disseminating the message. So there's certain ones that will hear it, certain ones that won't. But it appears like this is going to be the case. And then the reason why I even say it And you guys, you guys are kind of like in the same boat I'm in. There's circumstantial evidence that would show that. Now, what circumstantial evidence could I even say this is more than likely true? But like I say, I'm not for sure it's true, but there's circumstantial evidence. Norway, the country of Norway, has caused serious damage to the Watchtower. And that's all happened here in the last couple of years. And if you're just new listening in or you don't get it, Norway has some serious issues, and they're picking a lot of bones with the Watchtower. Yeah, they're more or less suggesting that the Watchtower organization shouldn't even be a religion in their country. They revoked their rights to be a registered religion. I mean, that's not too heavy of a penalty if your religious rights have been revoked, like in Norway. Elders can't marry someone. They have to go to a justice of the peace. But they can get around that. But the biggest thing, and we all know it, that's hurting the Watchtower is Watchtower's losing right about $1.5 million a year. And they've been getting that for over 20 years from the country of Norway. So you run the numbers, that's over $30 million they've been getting in the last 20, 30 years. But now all of a sudden there's no money coming from Norway. And Watchtower is scared to death that Norway is going to set an example. Because, in Europe, we mentioned before, many of these countries give the Watchtower money for the amount of people they have in the organization. It's called charity. And they give the Watchtower charitable status where they get money from every member. So the more members a religion has, the more money they get. But Watchtower is in deep doo-doo. They're not going to get that money, and they're not going to get it because they shun people. Norway hates the idea of shunning. So can you see here? Can you put two and two together? Can you see perhaps why there's going to be no more disfellowshipping announcements? Geez, that's all the European countries have to hear. And always going to say, listen, they actually announced it in the congregation. When they send the message out that Rick Farron no longer wants to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses, he's shunned. It's an automatic shunning. We know that. So they got to get away from this. They got to get away from it, or they're going to be losing a lot of money. So I wanted to bring that up. But in the same context, I wanted to bring up that there's a big change in the shunning policy of the Watchtower as of late. Now, I know there's plenty of ex-witnesses that are saying, no, Rick, it's still the same. It hasn't changed at all. It's still the same. I have to disagree with that. There's a big change on how they shun people. Now, let's just go with this. I know a man, he's listening in here tonight. I'll mention his name, Dick Borgie. He has a program coming up here later on tonight. Now, he was disfellowshipped. And when Dick was disfellowshipped, he would go to the Kingdom Hall. He had to sit up back. His family wouldn't even sit with him. His wife and two sons would not even sit with him. They sat down at front. He had to sit up the back. He was shunned. People wouldn't even talk to him at the meetings. So that's why I'm saying this is a big change. So what you can do now, if a person is disfellowshipped and they can actually go to the meetings and, they're not going to be shunned. People can talk to them. They can reach out to them. I mean, they can shoot the breeze a little bit, but, you can't get into a long conversation. So at least they can be talked to. Do you know how humiliating that must have been for Dick and for others that we know that had to sit there and be shunned? That's a terrible experience. So I think that is something that we can say is a change in the policy of shunning. In fact, the first time that a Jehovah's Witness can have casual contact in 25 years. Yeah, 25 years it's been. If you went to the Kingdom Hall and you were disfellowshipped, don't expect anybody to talk to you. So now what we have here, and it's even happened to me, friends. I've had relatives reach out to me because they can see the Watchtower evidently is softening up a little bit. And I believe shortly some of your PME or PMO relatives will be reaching out to you. And they're going to say, well, Jehovah now allows this. I can talk to you, Cindy. I can talk to you, Sally. So, things are changing. Uh, they aren't really supposed to get too casual. I mean, they don't want you talking about, the baseball games and football game scores or anything like that. Just keep it very brief. Don't get into spiritual matters as well. So, a brief greeting. That's what the Watchtower is saying. A brief greeting. Now, people are going to take this and put a lot of legs on it, right? Um, the saying can do that to meetings. Now, do they want you to do it? Suppose you ran into a disfellowship person at the supermarket. Does Watchtower want you to say hello to that person? They don't say this. They said you could talk at a meeting, but don't you think that the witnesses will put legs on this? If they see at the store, oh, hi, Rick, how you doing? So I think the witnesses are really going to, make this a blurry issue. And the Watchtower's got to try to work around it because, I mean, what do you really do? I mean, how much control can you put on a witness? And then, by the way, they don't even use the word disfellowship anymore. So I'm talking, this is a big change. They don't even use the word disfellowship anymore. Well, what they use is they now call it you're removed. You see, they play these semantics. If you think about it, isn't the word disfellowship? In fact, it's not even a word. It's a made-up word by the Watchtower, disfellowship. So if they think about this, disfellowshipped, no longer being used, the word removal is being used. It's basically the same thing, right? If you disfellowship, you're removed from the congregation. But they're going to play these games. They're nothing but games. So what I'm saying here is after the new year comes in, we're going to see especially the developments that are taking place in Norway, because in 2025, the country of Norway is going to make a final decision what they're doing with the Watchtower. They don't like them right now, but the Watchtower keeps appealing and appealing and appealing. But now Watchtower, and Norway doesn't seem like they're going to come around to the witness way of thinking. And now we're going to have so many other countries, they're going to follow in suit, in tandem with Norway. So that's a good thing. Well, you guys are listening in. And I thank you for coming in. We got a lot of people coming in tonight. So what do you guys think? Have you been getting any relatives speaking to you or friends that have been shunning you for years? Have you even got a little inkling of maybe a smile from a witness? I'd like to hear your thoughts. And anybody out there listening to this program that has witness friends or relatives trying to connect with them or in any way, shape, or form inviting you to the meeting? I mean, they got 63,000 witnesses came back to the organization in view of this new policy. They're fast tracking, reinstating people. So there's something going on with the Watchtower. I'm not really sure. I could run all over the map with what my thoughts are. But what is your thoughts on shunning? Do you think that?
Hello, Rick.
Yes, I think that's Fran. Yes.
Hi, Rick. Yes. Well, that's what we've heard. But, as far as if we're already labeled an apostate, that's not going to go for us, right?
Well,
they're not going to talk to us.
Well, what's happening, Fran? And the witnesses right now, it's so convoluted. They're on information load that they have so much they're trying to decipher. Is this right? Is that wrong? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's more or less many witnesses are saying, well, it's up to my conscience. The Watchtower is making these statements, but I can't follow it, so I'm just going to follow my conscience. So,
Right. Wow.
So I believe that there's many people listening to this program tonight. In fact, maybe even you and Joe, Fran. Your children, I mean, they got to be smart kids. I mean, they have smart parents. I can't see that they're going to remain in this organization. They got to see something brewing under the corner or around under the floor. Something's going to,
So far, we haven't heard anything from them in 2.5 years. Only time was Joe's mom passed away, and they came to the funeral home, and we were in the greeting line, and they came through and they said they're sorry, and they hugged us, and that was it. And then they went on to the other relatives, because the other relatives were not Jehovah's Witnesses. But no, they haven't had any contact with us. But yeah, that's what I was thinking, because we're labeled apostates. We weren't disfellowship, we disassociated, but they started shunning us right away. As soon as we started questioning, as soon as we are the ones that went to the elders, because, we had heard about the child molestation and everything. And yeah, we won't support. Yeah, we won't support the pedophile organization. We can't. We told that to our son-in-law. But anyway, I did hear a story of someone who had left quite a while ago, and he has a boyfriend, and the parents and the whole family went over to his house as soon as they heard this announcement. They went over. They gave him a tour of the house. They were like as if nothing happened. And but I don't think that just because they had that announcement. But all they're supposed to do is, if you're at the Kingdom Hall, greet them and say, "It's so nice to see you," and that's it. But they went over to their house. They got a tour of the house. They were giving gifts, and it's like, oh my goodness. So yeah, I think it is a conscience matter, Rick. I agree with you.
Yeah, so what you have here, you have a lot of mixed up Jehovah's Witnesses, Fran. You really do. There's a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that are totally confused. And in the process, I'll tell you what confusion does. Well, what confusion does is it makes people make bad decisions. And when you're confused, like many witnesses are, even though others might say, well, that was a bad decision. You talk to your mother and father. Don't you know you're not supposed to? Well, I was so confused. So in other words, you got this going on right now, this mix of confusion, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle it. I mean, I have to tell you sincerely, in the last couple of years, I've had three of my relatives contact me that were staunch Jehovah. Three of them. I can't say who they are, of course, but three of them had contacted me. And what's really of interest here, Jehovah's Witness reputation, Fran, as you know and I know, is beyond bad. People are picking up on the fact that this is a toxic religion. That this really, it's bad in the eyes of the public, in the court of public opinion. When they hear the word Jehovah's Witness, geez, their thinking starts going to, geez, that's a cult. They shun people. They hide pedophilia. This is it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
So our goal has been to inform the public. I can't tell you how many people, every single one of our customers that come into the shop, when we're finished conducting business, we say, on another subject, we just want to inform you. And they have no idea. A few of them do, but most of them said, I have no idea. We give them a postcard. We said, we're here. If you know of any that are being shunned, please let them know about us. And, we're here to support. And it's amazing how many people don't know about Jehovah's Witnesses and what they're doing, because they're so closed and they keep everything inside. It's just amazing.
Hey, Rick.
Yes.
Hey, this is Larry Wayne in Camarillo, California.
Hi, Larry. You all right with the fires going on out there, Larry?
Yeah, it's a long story, but we survived. A lot of people lost their houses, and I helped somebody save their house, but that's for another time. On the subject of the Watchtower changing their stance on disfellowshipping a little bit, the problem is prejudice is in families. Now, we all know there's different kinds of prejudice, and once a family has a prejudice against a person or a group of people or a type of people, even if the Watchtower organization comes out and says, okay, it's okay to talk to them a little bit. The problem is they've been so indoctrinated so deeply, a lot of them cannot handle it. They're not going to come out of it, or they can't come out of it. It even bothers their conscience, even if the Watchtower says it's up to your conscience. Now, the ones that do start talking, they're probably the rebels anyway, that some of them may have been talking to disfellowship people anyway. Like when I was a witness, I would talk to disfellowship people. I didn't care. I was a rebel. Of course, I never got caught, or I would have been disfellowship for that. But the problem is systemic. It's been there. It's even if the Watchtower changes to make themselves look good, it's going to take a long time to get rid of that prejudice.
Well, Larry, I have to agree with you. But, prejudice can be changed. It takes a long time to do it, but it can be changed. It really can. Well, always good to hear from you. Yeah. Anything else you want to add? Go. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say they have changed their stance briefly before, and nothing really changed, and then they went back to their hardcore. They did change for a while, but nothing got better, and then they went back to the old ways. So we'll see how long it lasts.
Hey, Larry.
If they start getting problems because now they're talking to disfellowship persons, and disfellowship persons put a little seed here and there, and they get people to wondering and looking into things, and they start coming out because of it. They're going to change back and say, "Look, these people are dangerous. Stay away from them." So we'll see how long it lasts.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to mention, though, Larry, is now we have a dynamic. We have some energy behind why the Watchtower is changing this. It has to do with Norway. It has to do with them losing a lot of money, millions of dollars, if they stay with the way they treat people when they're disfellowshipped. So this is now a big issue for them. Now, before, back in the 80s, they did make a little change on it. I don't know what the major reason was back then, but now we have a dynamic. We have a reason why the Watchtower is doing this. And, in fact, in all of life, Larry, follow the money trail. Follow the money trail,
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Larry, it's Kim. How you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
Why, long time no see. My goodness.
Yeah, I've been busy.
Are you gonna be doing your show again?
My what?
The show?
I haven't done a show in a long time, a program in a long time.
I know.
Eventually, I'll do a Facebook. I do have a Facebook channel, but I've got a few things up, but I'll put more things up later.
Oh, I don't really go on Facebook anymore. My Facebook is giving me problems. So can I give you my number? Maybe you can, call me or something.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it safe to give it over here?
Yeah,
Or you want me to-
Well, if she feels safe, go ahead. Yep.
I
Okay.
do.
Okay.
732
732
268
268
0949.
0949. Okay.
You can call me or text me at that number. Now, you don't have to give me a number, but what's the area code just in case I receive it? I don't know. It's like a random number.
Yeah, I'll give you my number, 805-302-3639.
Oh, my God. Hold on. Oh, you know what? No, I can't get it now. I'm in the dark. I can't write anything.
I'll text you right now in a few minutes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Larry. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Kim, for coming on. Yep. All right. Let's. So, anyways, let's take a look here and see what else is going on. We're talking. I just mentioned a few minutes ago that the Watchtower is toxic, and maybe most of the Jehovah's Witnesses aren't noticing it, but many are. Many PIMQs, as we call them, they're noticing how much they're covering up child abuse. They're noticing that many countries are now coming down on the witnesses. They're seeing the inherent problems in the witness world. So I'm saying the Jehovah's Witnesses are a toxic religion, or even more. Let's up the ante. Let's call it a toxic cult. But what I want to say, their reputation, as I just said, is beyond bad. Now, we've done a little survey here at the 6 Screens. And I'm really wondering, I got some information coming in here to the six screens that I want to share with you. I was really wondering, what does the world really think of Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, what is the main thing when, if you just walked up to a worldly person on the street, so to speak, and said, hey, what do you know about Jehovah's Witnesses? Well, what do you think they would say? So we got a little survey here. I mean, I don't know how totally accurate it is, but these are some of the things that people at random have brought up about what they think of Jehovah's Witnesses. Now, one of them, in fact, a number of them have said that they use a formula. Now, this is interesting. The Jehovah's Witnesses use a formula of preying on the vulnerable or the mentally ill to convert them. I like that. I like that. That is one reason or one thing we can. This is what worldly people are thinking. They have a they have a formula. You agree with that, Pixie?
That's a fact.
Yeah, I got this information coming in here. I'm trying to sort it out. I'm saying, well, I guess that's the question that was asked. That's the answer that I got. So that seems to be at the top of the list. So they prey on vulnerable or mentally ill people. So Pixie is saying it's a fact.
They want Granny's house, and they don't care if pregnant sister bleeds out at the hospital. Factor those things in too.
Yeah. Well, I found that fascinating. And then also another thing that worldly people, now this is worldly people, these are people that never were associated with the Jehovah's Witnesses, a little survey we did here at the six screens. So the other thing is, what makes Jehovah's Witnesses toxic? Now, the next thing that was brought up, they're forcing born-ins to stay because of shunning. The world is looking at this. I mean, does a Jehovah's Witness religion, does Watchtower, the governing body, do they think the world is stupid? Do they think that the world is not noticing what's going on in this screwy organization? So that seemed to be second on the list. These so-called people that haven't been a Jehovah's Witness, they're saying that, the Watchtower forces, young people who have been born into the religion, they force them to stay in because of the shunning policy. Well, I agree with that. I really do.
That's true too.
Yeah, so I'm seeing that, these are some of the things we put a little survey out, and those are the top reasons why what Jehovah's Witnesses are like in the minds of some of these secular people. I stopped telling people. I would say around the year 2000, even though I just fellowshipped in 2005. That's when Satan kicked me out of his organization. But I really stopped really openly admitting that I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. It started bothering me. Now, I don't know when you guys, when you guys stopped saying that you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses, because I knew how toxic, I knew how repulsive the name Jehovah's Witness was in the minds of many. Now, I have to say there was many too that had no idea that Jehovah's Witnesses were so toxic and so difficult to deal with and so destructive. But anyways, I'd be curious to know, is there any, can someone out there tell me, I'd like to hear from you. Can you tell me, even if you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses at the time, did you really enjoy, did you really get feeling good about the fact and telling people that you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses? At what point did you say, yes, go ahead?
Yeah, there's 2 points I want to mention. The question you just asked, how did I feel saying that's one of Jehovah's Witnesses? And honestly, I'll address that first. I didn't like telling people that I was, because they made me so guilty that I didn't think I lived up to that name. So I was even afraid to say I was one, even when I was in the best standing of my life. And then the other thing I want to say, some people in the world still have an opinion of Jehovah's Witnesses as being good people. This was a couple of years ago when I was going to the farmer's market. I was telling people about the witnesses And one guy came up. He wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. He wasn't studying, but he liked Jehovah's Witnesses. He was all ready to come to blows on me because what I was saying. He said, "They're good people. They're good people." And so it's almost like he was getting a pat on the back from the witnesses that were standing there. But so there are some people that still think of Jehovah's Witnesses as being good and honest people. They just don't know. A lot of them, most of them, as we know, put up a front. Witnesses put up a front of being even loving. I've seen witnesses look so loving, their smiles, and then I walk by and they see me that I'm disfellowship. Their smile turns upside down, turns into a frown, and they become hateful. So a lot of that is a facade of being nice and good, and but we were there one time too, and I would say I was a good person, and I know people who are a good person. The witnesses do attract people that want to be good, and they think they're good. So I'm just saying that there's some people still to this day that will not believe, even if they're not witnesses, they still will not believe the base core of what witnesses, how bad it is.
Well, thank you, Larry. No, but it's really, no, I agree with what you're saying. There's still people that think, oh, the Jehovah's Witnesses are so wonderful. I mean, when I was going out in service back in, 2004, 2003, and I'd knock on a door, oh, you guys are doing such a good job. They thought we were real Christians, and these were Christians answering the door. They'd say, I'm going to give you $10, put it toward, helping others. I mean, I can remember that. They thought that we were wonderful. And, I wish my religion did what you guys did, but that's changing. That's going on 20 years ago. That's not the same anymore. In fact, when you ask secular people or people who've never been in the witness world, and you ask even religious people in the religious world, and you ask people from all walks of life, and you say, well, what do you think of Jehovah's Witnesses? It's always, at least what I have been getting, maybe some of you guys are getting different thoughts, but what I've been getting as of late, it's always poor. They always give me this negative, what? That's a crummy organization. So, it's tarnished.
The history of it, they were so beloved in the court system. We had so many civil rights cases and religious freedom cases. You and I, as born-ins, were taught to be so honest and forthright. And I felt so betrayed when they wanted to take the house. And I felt so sad when sisters I knew bled to death. What can one do with that? Because a religion should not be doing that. I go with you that it's not even a religion anymore. I can't even use the word religion with it.
Well, good for you, Pixie. I mean, many people feel the same way. And, I want to tell this story. I'll keep it brief. But I want to tell this little story. When I left the Jehovah's Witnesses, I was really a good witness. I mean, they were considering me for a position on the governing body. I'm not bragging when I say that, but that's true. So they were considering me for a position on the governing body, and I didn't want that. I said, that's it. But anyways, when I was going to do it right prior to that, I have to tell you that it was really bothering me. And then, of course, when I left and got disfellowshipped, I felt so bad for all of these people. I knocked on their door, and I brought 5 people in the so-called truth. And that even bothers me to this day. But anyways, in this territory, when I left the organization, I told my first wife, my former wife who died, and I had some other people associated with me and connected with me. And I said, we're going to go out. We're going to go out in service. We're going to go knock on doors in all of the territory. And I did most of the territory here in Tewksbury where I live. And I went to all the houses and I knocked on the door of all these people I knocked on before as a Jehovah's Witness. But now I'm an apostate. I'm a person that's out of the witnesses. So I knock on the door and people remembered me. They say, we got the magazines. I said, no more magazines. I says, I'm out of that cult. It was so refreshing to do that. And I took many weeks to do it with a number of people and telling them I'm no longer one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And I felt bad for trying to convince them. And I had one man, I can still remember this, though it was 20 years ago. And I can remember one man, invited me, and he's an Italian man. He was very emotional, and he invited me in. And my former wife, he said, sit here. He says, sit here at the breakfast table, Rick. He says, I know you came by here as a witness. So you're telling me now you're not a Jehovah's Witness? I says, yep. Excuse me. I said, I'm not a Jehovah's Witness any longer. And I felt bad trying to convince you. I'm glad you never accepted the witness understanding. And I said, I'm here to tell you what they do. Now, I was here before to tell you how it was that you could have hope in the new world, but now I'm going to tell you how dangerous it is. I says, they cut you off, they shun you, they cut your whole family off. And this man was so emotional. You know how the Italians are, right? Many of them very emotional. He started crying, and he had 3 beautiful young daughters there. And he says, I can't believe that my own children wouldn't talk to me. And the man started crying. So, he got a good witness, and I told so many people. And so the whole thing is people now understand that Jehovah's Witnesses are a toxic religion. Who wants to speak up? You're on with us. Go ahead. I think we got you. We got you. Yeah, we got Chicago. Go ahead, Stephen.
I'll be very brief. And let us not also forget this blood policy. We're on the chat right now, and we're kind of jokingly referencing to it. And I guess I should never use the word joke with this, but we're talking about the Jonestown massacre. And we all make such a big deal out of that because 969, I believe, people lost their life. But I think it's probably that annually, or at least every 2-3 years in the Jehovah's Witnesses, simply on the blood transfusion policy itself. How many people die every year in this organization because they won't take a blood transfusion because Watchtower has brainwashed them to think that by so doing, they are somehow becoming displeasing to God. So let us not forget that as well when we talk about how despicable this organization is.
Well, Stefan, always good to hear from you. That's a good comment. That's a darn good comment. Thank you, Stefan. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's just the world is cut. Yeah, go ahead. You're on with me. Who's this?
Oh, it's Tim from Australia. Hi, Rick.
Hi, Tim. Hi.
Yeah, just a few thoughts of my own experiences because I kind of left in the late 90s when I was in my early 20s, and it's not because I didn't believe it was the truth. It was just through the hypocrisy of the people. So I kind of continued to believe it was the truth. And I just found that if ever I brought up the subject of witnesses, there'd be a negative reaction, which I was always told that people respect the witnesses, but that was opposite. It's not like it was brought up a lot over the years, but every time it was brought up, like for one example, I had a guy working for me and the subject of witnesses come up. He goes, yeah, I used to live next to the Kingdom Hall. And he goes, some of the people I used to see there, he goes, I wondered what they were doing there because he knew they were selling drugs and other things. And he said he was shocked when he seen him at the hall. And just negative stuff like that. And even last year, I was randomly at this job and a guy approached me and he started talking and then he was telling me, oh, my last boss was a Jehovah's Witness and he ripped me off. And I didn't say anything about ever being one. I just said, yeah, I know they're pretty dishonest. And so the vibe's always been negative, but even my own experiences with witnesses, to be fair, I've worked with a lot of witnesses over the years and they were probably equally the dirtiest mouth people I've ever worked with. And the most Christian-like was a guy that was like a Mormon and some Christian people, and they wouldn't swear or talk dirty, and they actually behaved like witnesses are supposed to behave. So if I'm seeing that and other people, like some of the other things that people that worked with me noticed that the witnesses would secretly ask for smokes when they were out of sight. And he said the funny thing was that each witness would do that privately thinking they were getting away with it, but they were all doing it. And so they're seeing the act, they're seeing it's a facade, and that's what I've always seen with the witnesses. It's mostly putting on an act, and that's how you get elevated in the witness thing. It's who you know, how you act in front of certain people, and I believe that 90% of them are fakers. Thanks, Rick.
Well, always good to hear from you, Tim from Australia. Thank you for checking in with us. Okay, we get more callers coming in. Who's next? Who is next? It looks...
from New York.
Oh, Jeff from New York. My goodness, good to hear from you, Jeff. So what's going on with Jeff this beautiful day?
I feel very good and very blessed. I'm happy to Anne Marie before. I wanted to say that I'm so grateful I'm not involved with the witnesses, because once you get detached, they're thrown out, and then you start to see what they do to your family. You spoke about they go after people who are mentally ill. They cause people to become mentally ill. They cause you. They bring on suicide with that fear of going to elders. The sisters don't want to go to elders, and then like in Holland, they don't talk to you in your house. Your father may not talk to you. My dad's from the Netherlands, and there's not any real love in there. Jesus didn't tell you to go ahead and if people make a mistake, you forgive them. He didn't go ahead and hit them on the head. When that woman was at the well and she had been accused of adultery, if anything, he just told her, "Oh, sin no more." They didn't go ahead to try to stone people, but the witnesses do. You don't have to stone people physically. You can just shame them in jobs and reputation. And you see, when you're a witness, create a little box, a little world, and they tell you got to stay within the world of all witnesses. And once you go ahead and you disagree with them, then they'll reprimand you, and they'll shun you. And I agree with one of the brothers on the thing. I think that the underlying thing is there, like you said about Norway. I also think that anyone that I spoke to, even now, I mean, a nursing home, but they said that they don't take blood. And that means they don't take blood. They'll die without blood. Yeah, okay, it happens. And that's your attitude. But and the other thing, you create a paradise, which is nonsense, with the lamb and the loving you and everything. These are not loving, caring people. These people will throw you in the street, literally. My stepsister comes from a very wealthy family, and then she had some issues. And she ended up living in the street, being raped and robbed by worldly people. And her mother says, "Oh, that's because you left Jehovah's organization." This is not world. This is not a loving group. I mean, this is worse than what some people go out, in Europe. They're worse than being. It's like being a contained concentration camp of mental defects. You got mental defects running the organization and then imposing the defective rules on people. And one thing I want to end with, this thing about spirituality. My dad spoke to me every day, even I was a fellowship for over 40 years, and he said to me, "You're getting the house from me, and you're getting the money we leave you, but I'm going to talk to my son every day. He's my son. He's my blood." And he's from Holland, and they didn't like it. They couldn't do a damn thing because they wanted that house and they wanted that inheritance, that money, and they're all about the money. I'm stupid in a way. I don't see. I don't see that as a young person. Today, I'm even stupid too. But I mean, you're supposed to be so nice and loving when you're dealing with wolves. I mean, I've lived with it. I mean, I'm out of it. I don't have to be with it. I got more loving, caring people in the nursing home that take care of me from all different backgrounds: Asian, Jamaican, Cuban. It's totally different than the nonsense that they put. There's nonsense. These people are heartless. And that you talk one thing with that fellow who was Italian. They're loving, caring people, but the witnesses are not. They're very vicious, cruel. They're good actors, and they really should be. They will get their doings in time. With Jesus' help, he'll get rid of them. Thank you, Rick.
Well, Jay, listen, what I want you to do too is my wife here has something for you. She brought you up the other day. She says, "I want to send Jay something." Jay, if you go to JW World News, give me the address where we can send this to you, okay?
Okay, I have trouble. I can give it to you now.
If Susan's listening, she can get her notebook out. Give me
150 Riverside Drive. I'm sorry, I have trouble with that. I got a computer. My company gave to me. I couldn't have tablet.
So it's 150 Riverside Drive,
And that's NY 124.
New York City, New York. Okay.
And the room is 610 Adams, 610A.
610A. I'll go back on the recording, and she didn't get it. But what's the zip code again?
It's 10020.
All right, we got something we want to send you, Jay. We love you. And by the way, for those,
I know you do.
well, for the,
Last name, Jay.
Dutch name, LOS. LOS.
Hello.
Jeff Lewis, LOS.
150 Riverside Drive,
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
610
Adam.
New York, New York,
Yeah.
10024.
Yes, Constance, right? Is Constance?
No, it's Pixie.
Oh, Pixie, I'm sorry. No, I'm good. I'm very happy. I'm not alone here. I like it. Right now, I want to stay here. It's funny. I begin to see people who are different. They're not phonies here. It is people die around me, but they're honest and sincere. You know, I don't see that with the witnesses. You can't play mind games on people and expect them to appreciate it. You know what I'm saying, Pixie?
I do.
They're vicious. I got people here with cancer, heart disease, and everything. You get to bond with them after a while. You get to see what they're about. I'm sorry, they don't cut it. And they don't cut it. They're not going to win a Grammy Award. I just think they're very evil. The people themselves are basically good. Okay, the organization leaders, they stink. And I know a Nephilim that works for the governing body. One day I mentioned there was a woman who liked me very much and followed me on a bus. And he says, "Why don't you kick her?" No, I'm not telling you straight up.
That's
Yeah, why don't you
terrible.
kick her? She's not a witness, so kick her and get rid of her. And
That's terrible.
That's their story. That's how they are. They love to kick you in the head and make you join it, and then take your money at the end. And like Rick would say, they follow the money. It's all you're about is a dollar sign or free labor. And then I'm glad you got on the thing, Pixie. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Good to hear from you. I'm glad you're well.
well, Jay, we miss you. And for
I feel good.
for
I
the
feel good. Thank
good.
you.
for those listening in, Jay had a program here. Watchtower behind closed doors. He did it for 2.5 years. We love Jay. Jay, keep cranking away at it. Thank you for the address. You got something coming. Thank you very much, Jay.
Give my love to your wife.
Well, thank you. She's doing a lot better, Jay. Thank you very much. I have tried to call you numerous times. I can't get through, but
Did you get the number from Anne Maria?
yeah, I got the number. I got 2 numbers, but it just always just goes to your voicemail. But I'll keep trying.
Voicemail is a problem.
Yeah.
I have to learn how to get my message.
All right. Good man. Well, you have a good night. Thank you, Jay. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Keep, and keep.
I'll never.
With this program, it saves lives.
I'll never give up, Jay. Thank you very much. All right, we have got. Let's go to 719. You're on with us. What do you have to say, 719? You want to talk up 719? You're on with us. Okay. If not, don't worry about it. All right, let's go to. Well, I want to first of all, the world is catching up, as we said right before Jay came on. The world is catching up on how toxic the Jehovah's Witnesses are. Really, when I tell people today that I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you know what people say? They say, "Oh my God, you were one of Jehovah's Witnesses." That's what people say, and I talk to people, and I'm not exaggerating. We do this program, and people say, "Well, Rick, what do you do?" I says, "Well, I got a little sign business, and I also do a radio program exposing the Jehovah's Witnesses." What? Oh my God, those guys are unbelievable. This is the type of stuff I hear all the time. So 719, do you want to say something? You're on with us. All right, let's go to how about 727?
Hey, Rick, it's Elaine.
Hi.
JW
Hi, Elaine.
Hey, I wanted to just tell you a story of something that happened a couple of weeks ago, just real briefly.
Sure.
My husband and I were looking out the front window, and the neighbor across the street from me has a really big tree that casts a nice shade, and a lot of solicitors who will come and knock on your door, try to sell you solar panels or something. They always park under that tree right across the street from my house. So I'm doing the dishes and I see this car pull up and my husband's with me. And the people, I say, oh, I wonder what they're selling. The people got out and it was a Hispanic family. Well, they looked like a family. It would look like a husband and wife and two maybe 20-year-old, of their kids, right? Two 20-year-olds or so, or maybe a young married couple. And I said to my husband, I said, they're Jehovah's Witnesses. And he said, how do you know? I said, oh, you could just tell. I said, well, I'm sure they're not coming to my house. So they go to my neighbor's house, and she's kind of very crazy, very loud. And she answered the door, and we're watching, and we're kind of laughing. I'm like, oh, no. Well, they talked briefly, and then they left. And my husband noticed that these people were only going to homes that had no cars in the driveway. So the homes that looked like there was nobody home. So a couple of days later, I saw my neighbor, and I said, hey, I saw those people knock at your door. They were Jehovah's Witnesses. And she said, no, they weren't. She said, I opened the door, and I said to them, you're not religious, are you? And the woman said, oh, no, we're just looking for Spanish people. We're just looking for Spanish households. And my neighbor, of course, oblivious, said, oh, no, there's nobody Spanish on our block, because she's very nosy. So I can tell you, guarantee they were witnesses. They were Hispanic. Now, why would they be going, or even if they weren't witnesses, who would just go randomly knock on houses and look for Spanish households? So I know they were witnesses. Either they got a little afraid because she's very aggressive and loud, or they're just looking to start Bible studies with Spanish households. I've never saw this tactic. I thought it was very interesting, and I just wanted to share it with you.
Well, thank you, Elaine. No, they're doing some strange things. They're doing everything they can, Elaine, to get people attracted to the organization. If they feel that the Spanish people are going to be the target, they'll go after it. But no, thank you. And you're doing a great job on your JW Escape, and you want to make sure you subscribe to Elaine. Give us a little plug. How can people subscribe to you, Elaine?
Yeah, just go to my channel. The last video I made a few days ago was an email of a gentleman in a different country. He asked to remain anonymous. He's deaf. And he said that he found my channel and he listened to it with curiosity because he had, at COVID, started studying with the witnesses, and he thought over Zoom, and he thought it was only just kind of, he said, like the Catholic Church, where it was just companionship. And he wanted to share his horror story of studying with the witnesses. And at the end, he said, basically, what do I do to get rid of them? So that was the last video I made. And
what you're doing, you're doing a really good job. You keep up the good work. And by the way, too, I sent you some books that you won, but they came back to me. It didn't. I didn't have the right address. Now you got your tickets, all right?
I did, yes.
Okay, but I did send you some books, but they came back. So if you send me the right address, I'll get those books back out to you. I still got them in the package, okay?
Okay, Rick, thank you so much. I sure will.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. All righty. Well, that's Elaine. She got the program, JW Escape, on YouTube. Subscribe to her. I mean, she's a wonderful lady. She lives down there in Florida. Susan, what do you have to say? My wife, Susan's on with us. Go ahead, Susan.
Well, I just wanted to answer to Elaine. When we lived in Mexico and we were trying to establish an English congregation there, and that's what we would do, is we would go in certain areas that were of high English population and try and identify who was speaking English and invite them to a Bible study. So that's what the society wants you to do in certain areas. foreign language areas.
Okay. Interesting.
So
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. It was an interesting work that we did, but of course, obviously, I'm so sorry I wasted all my time doing it
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, we all, don't we all, right? Thankfully, I only wasted 2 decades of my life and not like 70 or 80 years like some of my viewers tell me. Could you imagine? I can't imagine.
Well, we all, when we've done it hurts. And what's hard too is once you've been a witness for so long, even when you leave, there's still this back chatter in your brain of what Jehovah's Witnesses taught you, and you have to kind of just ignore it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you, Susan, and thank you, Elaine. And Elaine, don't you ever give in, up or out. Keep waving that flag and keep moving forward, okay? All right, thank you, Elaine. Let's go to, well, let's see what we got here. Let's take a look. We got a lot of people calling in. Let's go to 805. I think that's Larry John Wayne. What do you think, Larry?
Yeah, the sister mentioned it. I was just going to say that when I was in the Spanish congregation years ago, we would go to areas that were English, but we were looking for Spanish because we didn't have enough territory. So we were looking for Spanish-speaking people. And so basically we'd make a territory within the English territory of Spanish-speaking people. So that's what they do.
Well, good man, Larry. Thank you. You know, I got thinking, I really got thinking here on what is giving the Jehovah's Witnesses this really toxic image. How is it that people are finding out? You know, regular secular people, non-religious people are finding out how evil the Watchtower is. And I can only come down to the fact that I really want to thank all of the work of the activists, all of you people out there that have your YouTube channels, all the people have the Facebook channels and Facebook groups, all the people writing in Reddit, all the people on JWN, all the people with podcasts. I want to thank you all. It's the work of the activists that is really getting their reputation out about how bad the Jehovah's Witness is. So all of you guys, all of the people here on the Six Screens Network, Dick and Connie and Anne Marie and all of these people we have that come in and expose the Watchtower, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they cannot hide the fact that their religion is really in deep doo-doo. The internet is the greatest thing. It's the greatest equalizer, as we always say. The leadership of the Watchtower organization is being destroyed, and they're destroying their own reputation. The word is spreading far and wide about the CSI, child sexual abuse cover-ups, and the governments and the judiciary countries that are examining the Watchtower, that's seeing how insular and how nefarious the organization is. So this is just unbelievable. That's why I'm so happy. I'm very happy to be able to report this to you guys. This is not just me looking through rose-colored glasses. This is happening. So anyways, I wanted to bring that up tonight. And I think everybody out there listening to this program, that they agree. They can see that the Watchtower organization is really being exposed in so many ways more than ever before. When we started 20 years ago doing this program, no, people didn't see how bad the organization is, but now they are. Okay, so let's move on. I got more thoughts to talk about here tonight. Let's bring this up. Is anyone, now we're getting into the Christmas spirit, right? Did you want to say something? You're on with us. Go ahead, 510.
Is that me?
I think that's you. Yep. 510. Yep.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Shannon. I've called before. And I just wanted to ask you a quick question, if I may.
Sure.
Yeah, I wrote a letter to the headquarters, and I asked them, did they have a fund for witnesses who have served them, all their lives, right? And now they've fallen on hard times. And do they have, a fund set up for their longtime members? And they wrote me a short letter in response, and I'll just read it to you. It's very short. It says, we are writing in response to your letter dated October 14th. We wish to express that we appreciate your letter and sympathize with your feelings. Aside from children, the Bible states that it's the congregation's responsibility to look after widows in their tribulation. Therefore, to be of further assistance, it would be helpful to have both your mother's name and congregation. So before I respond to this letter, I just wanted to know, to the best, I wanted to ask you, to the best of your knowledge, do they disperse funds to a person's congregation to help them out financially?
To my knowledge, no. Shannon, I have to tell you, no. I mean, I have to say what happens is when the Jehovah's Witness organization appoints elders, they usually appoint elders that are well-to-do. Now, I mean, they don't have to be millionaires. They don't have to be like, super money-making people, but they're generally people that own their own homes. They're generally people that have a few extra bucks. And if the congregation comes up shy, as we know, they have to give money, every month to the Watchtower. And if the congregation is supposed to give $1,000 a month to the Watchtower, and the contributions coming in are only like, say, 600, so the elders are on the hook for the 400, and the elders have to cough up the rest. I don't know if you know that or not, but so they're gonna cough up the 400. So that's how the Watchtower works. So they're very sly, they're very devious. How they, you could have a really good man that is really a super loyal witness. He's doing all the things he should do, but he's poor. He's just struggling along. He might not be appointed an elder, Shannon. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Well, Shannon, good to have you call in. Thank you very much. Now, don't you be a stranger. You come back and see us, okay?
I will. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shannon. All right. Let's go to 610. 610. What do you have to say? You're on with us, 610. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. The next time you have Barbara on, could you ask her about Max Larson? I'd like to hear some stories about Max and Helen Larson.
Well, she'll be coming on next week. I mean, you'll be able to ask her that. Do you know anything that she might not know about Max Larson?
Oh, yeah, I would say I know a lot about Max Larson, but not so much as it pertains to Bethel as it would pertain to his relatives, to someone of his relatives. But I like to hear stories about him and Helen. I grew up with him.
So you're a relative of Max Larson? Now, he was the president of the Watchtower. You know that, yep.
Oh, yeah, and he was in Bethel for a long time.
So
was Helen's wife.
So were you one time one of Jehovah's Witnesses or no?
Well, I was never baptized, so I was able to escape that part.
So can you, not going into a whole long story because Barbara might like to hear from you as well next week, but can you tell us a little, that was your uncle? Max Larson was your uncle, right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you know about him?
Well, growing up, he used to come visit us, him and Helen, and he taught me how to ski. And when I was about 10 years old, we went on a cross-country trip across the United States to visit his mother in Washington. And we spent a month and a half out in Washington State, and then we came back. So I spent some time with him. I went with him on a vacation up to Maine. We spent about 2 weeks up in Maine. He was, aside from whatever impression people had of him in Bethel, my impression was that, every time he'd come out to visit us, and we lived in a rural area, and he would love to take hikes, and we'd go on hikes together. There was a railroad track right next to our place, and we used to walk up and down the railroad track. You know, until I was a teenager. By the time I got to be a teenager, I was kind of less likely to get involved. I mean, I think my family might have had designs on me to end up in Bethel, but I had different designs.
Well, I mean, now next week Barbara comes on. Barbara comes on, and she would love to hear from you. Can you call in next week when she's on?
Well, I'm not sure that I can. That's why I thought I'd give a holler and put a bug in somebody's ear if they could just mention to her. You know, I know she's mentioned Max and Helen, just, you know, briefly, but, you know, if she could talk a little bit more about it, I'd appreciate it. And then usually I watch the shows on the rebroadcast on YouTube, because we've had a couple of situations in our family, and I think we might not be home next week, and so I wouldn't be able to call in.
Oh, that's all right. That's fine. But would love to hear from you again. I mean, if your uncle was Max Larson and you were one time connected with the witnesses, I'm sure you have much to say. I mean, I know you're not going to berate your uncle, but there's some things that we'd love to hear about, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Well, that's just what I wanted to inquire about.
Yeah. So I mean, just curious. I mean, you're going to be around tomorrow? We have a program tomorrow.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be home around tomorrow. It's got a busy day.
Oh yeah, I understand. Yep.
On my right side of the family, we had two family members pass away within a short period of time. So,
well, sorry to hear that. But so this, I think, is your first time calling in, right?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, okay. So what to do? I won't give you a name or anything, but what to do is you stay in contact with us. Don't be a stranger, okay? And geez, I'd love to get you on sometime to tell your story. Could you do that for us? Yeah, sometimes you tell your whole story. I'd love to hear. I mean, when people have officials that are involved in the Watchtower, I'd like to hear how they feel about it. So sometime, if you could in the future, if you could write me at jwworldnews@gmail.com, jwworldnews@gmail.com. I'd love to have you come on and tell your story. I'd love to have that. Could you do that for me?
All right. So yeah, JW
World News at gmail.com, jwworldnews@gmail.com. And when the holidays settle down and you can come on, I'd love to have that happen. I really would. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That's 610. Well, anyways, you are on JW World News right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Well, we got a lot of things still to talk about. We've got a great guy coming on here very, very shortly. His name is Scott Walton. He has a program here on our Six Screens Sunday. He works for Samaritan's Purse. He's down in North Carolina, and we're going to talk about how the Watchtower isn't showing much, they're not showing much good toward the poor. They're not trying to help the poor. So we're going to talk to Scott. He's going to come on. He's going to talk about Samaritan's Purse. Got a lot of things we're going to discuss. But anyways, we're so glad you're on here with us tonight. I tell you, I came across one of the biggest stories ever in the Watchtower that I can remember in 24 years. We have got, and this has happened this month. This month, it's been decided in the New York Supreme Court that the Jehovah's Witness organization can be held liable, including the governing body, for covering up child molestation. Friends, this is one of the biggest stories I've covered here in the last 20 years. And the reason is because the headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses is right there in Warwick, New York. And we have, if we go roll the clock back to November 16th, 2023, there was a suit brought against the Watchtower. And the suit claimed that there was a Jehovah's Witness ministerial servant in New York, and he was actually molesting people in the congregation, young people. And that would be the plaintiff, was actually saying that this man by the name of Ronald Mark Harding, he was a ministerial servant. And this young man, Mark Harding, Ronald Mark Harding, he said that he was molested as a young person from 1991 to 1994. So now he comes forward and he filed a complaint. He would be the plaintiff. He filed a complaint against the Jehovah's Witness organization, the governing body he actually mentioned as defendants. This is wonderful. The governing body is now a defendant in this lawsuit. So this plaintiff, Ronald Mark Harding, he is actually filing a complaint against the King's Highway congregation that's in Brooklyn, New York, but he also is filing a complaint against the governing body. Now, in the past, this wouldn't work because, if it was out in Iowa or it was out in California or Idaho somewhere, it would be very hard to put this all together because the Watchtower corporation is in New York. So it's a lot of legal jargon that you have to go through to get it. But now the plaintiff who is filing the suit against the Watchtower is alleging the governing body is now being sued as well. So this is something that is unprecedented. And this could really be something that has a lot of legs on it. It really could put the governing body in a very difficult strait. So he is suing the governing body as well as the congregation. And of course, the governing body headquarters, as we know, is in the state of New York. So this has more legs on it. This has a lot more credibility than if it was in some other state. So the plaintiff, he is actually saying that the governing body was actually responsible for his abuse. And they were aware of the fact that this ministerial servant who was in the congregation was actually causing the problems. And he was the one that actually was raping this young guy, a young person. I'm not sure, they don't say. It could be a man or a woman, but he was raping this young person. And now the governing body is on the hook for this. So I think it's wonderful. So the state court in New York is saying that this is a hierarchical organization. And they're saying that Jehovah's Witnesses, that is the governing body, it trickles down from the top. They make the rules, and the congregations, they follow through what the rules are from the governing body. So the rules certainly would be brought into question here. The governing body, they perhaps knew that this man that was raping the children in New York, they more than likely knew that he was doing this. So they are now culprit to this. They are now being accused of covering this up. So this could be a real precedent. And I have to tell you, this is going to cause a lot of problems for the governing body. So, but yet they appealed 2 years ago because of all of this. They said, well, actually a year ago, but 2023, they appealed this and said that, they weren't responsible. But just as of a few days ago, a week ago, the court in New York came back and said, no, the governing body can be held responsible. So I think it's wonderful. I really do. I think it's wonderful to see this happening. So I have to tell you, we are seeing so many things happening that can cause so much damage to the Watchtower. And this is why right now the Watchtower is in damage control. The governing body members are now defendants in a court case. And they're going to have to really fight their way out of this situation, because if not, I mean, they could be held responsible. They could actually go to jail. So we'll see what happens. We'll have to see what happens. There's still a lot to go through here. When you talk about court cases, it takes time. So we'll see. We'll see how that all works out. Any questions at all? Go ahead. You're with us.
What's the case name?
Well, actually, let's go back and find the case name. I can go right back to the beginning here, Pixie, and find the case name of this. Yeah, it was filed just, well, they've been fighting this. The governing body has been fighting this. Just give us a second here. We can get back to where we are. All right. The governing body, Jehovah's Witnesses, is a named defendant in the New York court child sexual abuse case. What I have here is the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses is named defendant in a court case. If you punch it in, well, it's a Doe versus Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of New York.
Okay, that's what I needed.
Yeah, Doe versus Bible and Tract Society of New York. Now, on November 6th, the Supreme Court of the state of New York, they reviewed this case. The Watchtower appealed it, from a year ago, saying that they weren't on the hook for what happened. The governing body said they weren't on the hook for what happened. This ministerial servant evidently raped, molested a child in the congregation in New York. The governing body said that they weren't on the hook for this. But now what we see is the court came back and said, yes, you are. You're a hierarchical organization. Your decisions, your position is it goes down from the top to the bottom. So they are on the hook for this. This could be, now let's hope they don't.
Huge. That's huge because that means that the local courts had to move it up to the state supreme for the determination of it. That's huge. It really is.
Well, it really is huge, Pixie. Now, whether the Watchtower can, wiggle their way out of this, I mean, they have in the past. So now it's going to come the plaintiff. It doesn't name the man because, for security reasons here. But the ministerial servant's name is Ronald Mark Harding. And he was molesting this plaintiff since 1991 through 1994. And it was in the King's Highway congregation in New York, in Brooklyn. And now the governing body, the plaintiff is coming forward and saying the governing body should also be brought into this because they allowed this to happen. And now the Superior Court is saying, yes, we're going to go forward with this. So we'll see what the Watchtower does to try to wiggle the way loose. But as it stands right now, the Watchtower governing body members, they're going to be shaking in their boots because this could really be something that could put them in jail. It really could. If the court comes,
and it could also, if it's with the Supreme Court and of New York and the governing body, it could also impact other cases.
Yeah.
Where they're liable.
So that's why the governing body, picture right now, the governing body, they are in damage control. They've been that way for the last 2 weeks. In fact, even the Watchtower magazines, as I've gone through here on jw.org, what they're saying is that, they're saying the magazines are about forgiving the people that have hurt you in the past. So what they're trying to do here is they're trying to stop all of these lawsuits. So the Watchtower articles, the last 2 weeks as I reviewed it, they're saying, well, forgive the people that might have done something to you in the past. They're not naming.
I side with justice on that one.
Yeah, they're not saying child abuse, but they're saying, forgive the people because they see this is all coming against them. But, I'm thinking the followers, the Jehovah's Witness rank and file, they might just say, well, this is all persecution. This is what Jesus foretold, that we will be persecuted. So, but this time there's no firewall. The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society doesn't have a firewall. There's nothing here they can hide behind. If, in fact, this is in the state of New York, and where it's hierarchical, and where they are in a position of responsibility, and where they see, or at least the world that the court is seeing, that look at your orders have kept this pedophile in his position. This could mean, could mean, I'm not saying, but it could mean jail time for the governing body. Isn't that nice, Pixie? Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
Good. I have a holiday movie title that I think would be the perfect witness and ex-witness movie.
Yeah. What would that be?
It's called, it was made decades ago. It's a beautiful movie. It's called Tuck Everlasting.
Well, what's the theme of that? I mean, what does it do?
I'm not going to give it away. I think the movie's appropriate for 15 to age 105. If you were ever a witness, if you have witness family, if you're interested in the history of the witnesses, to tell you the plot would give it away, but it's a lovely movie. It's a family movie. It has a different ending, and it's called Tuck Everlasting, and it's worth your time.
Well, good girl. Thank you, Pixie, for bringing that to attention. Thank you. All right, let's just check this out. We have got yes, Stefan.
I'm sorry. I just had to. If I was in Bethel and I was one of these helpers, because if you remember, you were the one who told us a couple of years back, the governing body technically is not part of Watchtower. Isn't that correct from a legal standpoint? They technically are not Watchtower.
Well, that's what they.
The disgusting comment that Loesch made, that he was not Watchtower and he has never been a part of Watchtower and all of that. That's out there on YouTube. We can all see that. The point that I'm making is, when the you-know-what hits the fan, if they get sued, I wonder if they're going to throw the helpers, because the helpers legally are the ones that's running Watchtower. Are they going to throw them under the bus and say that these policies and procedures that they're being sued about are actually signed off on by these helpers and not by the self-proclaimed governing body?
Well, what I see here, Stefan, is the defendant, and no name is listed. He goes by Doe. So the defendant is actually, I'm sorry, the plaintiff, not the defendant, but the plaintiff, Doe, is accusing the governing body. So, not the helpers, but the governing body. So they are now coming under the court order to respond. And if they don't, they have to. They have to have heavy fines. They've paid fines in the past, but at this particular point is a little bit different. Now, I mean, not to get too convoluted here, but if you roll the clocks back, the governing body was named in another lawsuit out in California about 3 years ago that we talked about here on the Six Screens. But because it was in California, the laws are different. They were able to pay a fine and not have to show up in court. But in New York, according to the information I got coming in here, in New York, they're going to have to come into court and answer the allegations. They're going to have to come in and actually tell the court the position that they are in. And the court already has decided that, they are culpable. They have, they make the decisions at the top and it trickles down. They are what,
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah, it's hierarchical. That's the term. It goes down. Yeah.
Because if you remember, Brother Farron, I'm in Illinois, as you know. And if you remember that case a couple of years back out in, the North Lake or Crystal Lake, but those two elders that were sued because the young lady went to them and said her dad was touching her and they did nothing about it. And years later, I think she was molested for another decade. Years later, word finally got to the police. They immediately arrested her dad. He's probably still in prison now. And then they also put on trial those two elders. And if you recall, when the JW lawyers got involved, their position was, well, we give them guidance, but at the end of the day, it's up to those elders as to whether they want to follow the guidance. They completely, Watchtower Legal, completely threw those local body of elders under the bus and basically said, hey, you made that decision and you acted on it, and it's going to fall on you and not us, even though you were just following our orders. And I know that both of those elders were found guilty, but unfortunately, only the one got, I think, I don't want to say house arrest, but he got sentenced. He basically stood the day in the Kingdom Hall, or however many days in the Kingdom Hall, supposedly cleaning up. I'm sure he didn't clean anything, and that's the only slap on the wrist that he got. But the point that I'm making is the precedent Watchtower Legal said is, hey, we gave these, but these are just orders. These were guidelines. It was still up at the end of the day, it was still up to the elders to follow them or not. I just wonder if this governing body is going to try to pull that same stunt and throw these helpers underneath the bus.
I believe they might. I mean, just to give people who are listening in, because I know it's kind of convoluted and a lot of numbers and dates and what have you. But if we roll the clocks back to November 16th, 2023, 13 months ago, let's go with that, there was a suit filed against the Watchtower. And the defendant, who was not named here, he filed a suit saying that he was molested by a ministerial servant named Ronald Mark Harding. So the defendant, or the plaintiff, I should say, was actually saying he was molested from 1991 to 1994. So that went forward in the court system. The court system took a good part of a year to come back. And just in November, in fact, just in December, just a few days ago, they decided that, the governing body could be held responsible. And that's where we are right now. So now the governing body, I'm sure, is going to try to appeal that as well. But it's not going to be too successful because they've already, have appealed it. So we'll see what happens. So it's only a matter of time. And we're going to see the governing body could be in court in New York unless there's some payola or something goes on. So, I mean, that's the bottom line. So let's hope. I mean, this could be a changing moment for the Watchtower and for our ex-witnesses to see that the Watchtower is in deep doo-doo here. And that's why, like I even mentioned earlier, in their two latest Watchtower articles, they are in damage control. They are asking for forgiveness for people that have hurt you in the past. Why would they be doing that? Because the Watchtower has been doing that. Thank you, Stefan. Okay, well, let's move on here. Let's see what else is going on behind the curtains of the Watchtower. We've been bringing up here the last, you guys know, you've been out shopping for Christmas. You've been going in the stores. You see the Salvation Army out there. They're ringing bells. So many churches, they're giving food out. They're helping the homeless people. We talked last week about the homeless and how Jehovah's Witnesses don't do anything for them. Well, we have a man that's going to come on here with us tonight, and he's going to give us the real skinny. He's going to give us the understanding of what goes on in the real world, say like in regular Christian churches, on what happens with these churches and how they help poor people that are falling through the cracks. So we're going to we have a man coming on. His name is Scott Walton. He has a program here on Sundays called Knowing God After Leaving the Watchtower. Scott works for Samaritan's Purse. You've heard about that. That's Billy Graham's son. And he started an organization that, helps poor people. So we know that doesn't happen in the Watchtower. The Watchtower doesn't give diddly squat about poor people. But let's bring Scott on right now. And Scott, let's bring him on. Well, there he is. Now, he worked for Samaritan's Purse. Scott, we've been talking here for the last couple of weeks about the Jehovah's Witnesses. Scott, they don't help people. Here they are, a multi-billion-dollar organization. But as far as, going on the record to help poor people, give them food, give them help, it doesn't happen. Can you tell us about your organization and where you work?
Yeah, I've been working at Samaritan's Purse. You can see my shirt here. It says associate staff. I'm working there as a seasonal employee for the Operation Christmas Child, which is a huge effort to send out shoebox gifts to children all over the world. And how I got started is I heard from a classmate when I was in seminary, and she told me she was working at the Charlotte location just seasonally during the Christmas months or during the holiday months, winter months, basically. And that was something that she did when she wasn't in school. So she had some income and yet she could still go to school. And I remember when I heard about that, I thought, oh, that's something I could do that. And I put it off and put it off, put it off. Finally, I just last year for the first time signed up to work at Samaritan's Purse. And I was very surprised at once I got inside this organization to see how thoroughly Christian it was. I didn't know that there were such ministries of such size, because Samaritan's Purse does disaster relief response all around the world, especially here in the United States. Yes, but they go everywhere. They have planes that fly out. Some of you may remember that during COVID, a Samaritan's Purse set up some tents in Central Park in New York City, where they had respirators and the things that people needed for medical care. And they can do this. We have a plane that just went out recently to set up a mobile hospital. So the airplane, a DC-8, has all the equipment. They fly out the doctors and nurses and technicians, and they just set up a hospital. And they can do this anywhere in the world on a few days, maybe a few days notice. And they can just set up a kind of field hospital. It's amazing what goes on in this organization. And as for reaching out and helping people, that is, of course, what Jesus taught us to do. And Samaritan's Purse does it in a big way, very highly organized, using money from donors. It is not, to my knowledge, I mean, it's not a profit organization. It is a relief organization, a charity organization. And that's some of what goes on at Samaritan's Purse. And there's so much more I could tell you.
Well, Scott, the reason why I brought you on tonight is, the Jehovah's Witnesses, they talk a good game. Mm-hmm. They really, we're a charitable organization. Mm. They actually have a tax status for charitable organization with the United States government, but they really don't do too much, Scott. But, I see, I go into the market basket, I go into food stores, I go into like Walmart. You'll see them out there ringing the bell, the Salvation Army, and the Salvation Army does a great job, as you guys do as well. Now tell me, what is the Samaritan's Purse doing right now for Christmas?
Right. Well, so I've been working just recently on Operation Christmas Child, which is where they send out shoe boxes with gifts and supplies for children all over the world. So only what will fit inside of a shoebox. And yet they're planning this year to send out about 12 million shoe boxes. Last year, we did north of 11 million. And since 1993, they've sent out 220 million shoebox gifts to children all over the world in 170 different countries. You can go to the website, SamaritansPurse.org. And if you put /OCC, you'll get right to the Operation Christmas Child page, where you can learn all about the operation. You can make a donation if you want to contribute. You can watch videos with inspiring stories about people who received a shoebox gift and what follows after. Now, what they include in there is a booklet called The Greatest Gift that talks about Jesus briefly. And they have church partners all around the world in these local countries who are the ones actually delivering the boxes and telling the kids a little bit about Jesus. And then they invite them to join a discipleship program. And any of the children who choose to join will go through a discipleship program called The Greatest Journey that lasts for 12 sessions, maybe 12 weeks. I'm not exactly sure about that. And at the end of it, they have a choice to put their faith in Christ. Since this program has been going on since 1993, and those 220 million shoeboxes have gone out, over 20 million children have made a decision to follow Jesus Christ. So this is a tremendous evangelism tool. It's one of the biggest that Samaritan's Purse has. of course, going out and in disasters and helping people is certainly also part of the mission. But everything is done for the sake of sending the gospel to the ends of the earth. And like I said, it's a wonderful Christian organization, so very thoroughly Christian. I was surprised when I went to work there. We have a prayer every morning. We have a devotion. We pray together. Everyone there has to, in the interview, they ask you about your relationship with Jesus. You know, are you saved? Even some questions of doctrine. So it's a very, like I said, very Christian organization. It's wonderful to work with other brothers and sisters in Christ doing this ministry that's sending out gospels, that's doing disaster relief. In a previous a time, I was working in the call center for a disaster relief agency with Samaritan's Purse, handling calls for people who had been had their houses damaged by Hurricanes Helene and Milton. So there's lots of different things that the Samaritan's Purse does, but the thing that I'm working on right now is this Operation Christmas Child, those shoebox gifts.
Well, that shoebox of gifts, that reminds me, Scott, you know, during COVID, the United States government, they gave out boxes of food. And I'm sure the Samaritan's Purse was involved with that. But they had boxes of food they were giving to poor people. You know, potatoes, it had turnips, it had carrots, it had vegetables, and even some meat. And the United States government said, look, because of people out of work and not making money, we'll give them food boxes. So the Jehovah's Witnesses jumped right on the bandwagon. Oh my goodness. So what they did is they were very deceitful about it. They had the elders get the boxes from the government. They got the boxes from the government. At the time, it was Donald Trump, who was the president, that did this. And there was a little note inside the food boxes that said, Trump, United States government wants people to have this food. But what the Watchtower did is they portrayed, or at least suggested, the fact that they were the ones that were giving these food boxes out. Now, this is very deceitful. So they contacted all the witnesses and said that, you know, the Watchtower wants to give you a food box. Well, it wasn't the Watchtower giving the food box. It was Trump. It was the government. But yet they wanted it to seem like, oh, how nice the Watchtower is. And then even people that didn't even need the food box. I mean, during COVID, there were people that really were hurting, but there were people that had enough money. They were able to survive. The elders would call these people up in the congregation and say, you have to take the food box. They were really trying to promote how wonderful the Watchtower is. So the Watchtower has done a lot of phony things. Now, let's just roll the clocks back. You say that Samaritan's Purse would help people in these hurricanes. Just recently, Hurricane Milton and the other one that you suggested. Now, just to make a long story short, so they would go in. Now, what would they do for people that had a house destroyed or roofs that needed roofing? What would the Samaritan's Purse do to help these poor people?
Yeah, well, Samaritan's Purse was offering to remove trees, to patch roofs, and to muck out the house. So they would take out all the mud, the water damage, essentially do water damage mitigation to the home, or what we call a mud out. You know, get out the mud, get out the soggy carpets and furniture and wallboard that has to be torn out. They would just tear all that out. And in some cases, maybe put some temporary wall paneling or something like that to help the homeowners be able to move back into their homes without having mold. Oh, also spray for mold to prevent mold from growing. So that would allow people whose house is still standing but had been flooded to, you know, begin the process of restoring their home and going back to live in it. As for people who had their entire house destroyed, the Samaritan's Purse didn't have a specific ministry for them. Red Cross had shelters that they were taking in people, which is fantastic. But some of those people, their house is still standing. They're in a shelter because they can't live in the house that's been flooded. So they would call us up and we would help them get their house back in order. But now, one of the things that is also great about Samaritan's Purse when it does disaster response is they stay until the job is done. And I heard Franklin Graham say, we'll be there for probably 3 years in the hills of North Carolina where people have lost homes. The Samaritan's Purse is providing mobile homes and rebuilding some homes as needed. And this is something they've done before. So it's amazing. They have water purification systems for towns whose water supply was contaminated so that they couldn't have anything to drink. And they flew helicopters to bring people generators, warm clothing, because the hills in North Carolina, the temperature was dropping. And so they brought in these supplies by helicopter when the roads had been washed out. Up there in the hills, there's places, towns where there's only one road. And when the road washes out, you can't leave and the supplies can't get there. So they flew them in by helicopter. There's been great stories that have been in the news in terms of the disaster response. But, I wanted to talk about the Watchtower since this is a Watchtower show. And you said they were doing this trick of passing along the food boxes. In a way, it doesn't surprise me because when we looked on our show, Knowing God, which comes on Sunday, we looked at this book, The Subtle Power of Spiritual Abuse by David Johnson and Jeff Van Vonderen. I talked about what a spiritually abusive system is, as they described it. And one of the things they said is it's very image conscious. What's important to the spiritual abusive system is how it looks to the outside world. And this is one of the reasons that the Watchtowers will tell you, don't talk about these scandals, don't talk about this, don't talk about the other, because the image there is what's important to them, that it looks good. And they're willing to hurt their own people, cover up abuses, just so the image of the Watchtower looks good. And of course, what they'll tell their members is, it will bring reproach on Jehovah if you were to air this dirty laundry that we have. So, I'm actually surprised that they don't do more charitable work. The Mormons do. The Mormons do a lot of charitable work, and they're another organization that kind of tells people you have to work to earn your salvation, and it's similar with the JW. So I'm kind of surprised that they don't actually have more outreach.
Well, what do I have here? I'm thinking Scott out loud here, but Jehovah's Witnesses, when they go in now and they repair, let's say it's a hurricane, so they go down to the hurricane area and they repair the homes of Jehovah's Witnesses, only Jehovah's Witnesses for the most part. And then what they do is they suggest to the person who they're repairing the roof for or siding or whatever problem they had, they're asking for the insurance money when the insurance is paid out, that they could pay the Watchtower back. Now, have you heard about anything about that in the Samaritan's Purse program?
No, and in fact, a lot of people, when they would call, when I was working at the call center, occasionally I'd get this question, how much is this going to cost me? And I would have to tell them, this is a charity. This is a Christian ministry and a charity. We don't charge people for our services. And Samaritan's Purse doesn't do that. I don't think we could do that legally. I'm not sure that that's above board, a kind of thing to do. So no, real charities don't ask for.
Well, that's a real, that is a known fact. I mean, I've had people call into the program that said, their mother's house was, the roof blew off or the shingles were gone. And, they came in, the Watchtower so-called recovery help came in, put a new roof on. But, when you get your insurance check, if you could pay us back, we'd appreciate it. I mean, that's pretty low. I mean, seriously. That numerous people have called in and said that. But the second question I wanted to ask you is, when Samaritan's Purse goes in, and obviously it's a real Christian organization, but when they go in and help people put a roof on, help rebuild their house, do they only help Christians or they help other people as well?
They help everybody. That's again what Jesus said, love your neighbor. And when he was asked, who's your neighbor, he told the story of the Good Samaritan. And the Jews at that time despised Samaritans, looked down on them, considered them heretics and apostates and the worst kind of creatures on the planet. So yeah, Samaritan's Purse doesn't ask you what's your religious affiliation when they come to help you, but they do share the gospel. And they don't, it's not a pressure sales tactic. It's just, when someone asks, hey, why are you out here? And oh, by the way, we have tens of thousands of volunteers who responded to these hurricanes. It's not only in North Carolina, but also the Valdosta, Georgia area, the St. Petersburg, Tampa area in Florida. And our volunteers go out, they wear orange shirts. I have the purple shirt because I'm working in a different part of the organization, but we give our volunteers orange shirts when they go out on the job. People see these orange shirts come in and they ask, and they want to know, why would you do that? Why are these people coming from all over the country, by the way, to volunteer to help out in North Carolina and Georgia and Florida? Tens of thousands of volunteers. We've had, I think, north of 30,000 people have responded to give of their time. And when the homeowner asks, why are you doing this? It's because we love Jesus and we want to show you the love of Christ that we have and tell you about Jesus. And they put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, because for someone to give up their time to travel across the country to make a donation or to volunteer their time is a sacrifice, but it's a loving sacrifice, just like what Jesus calls us to do.
All right. Well, let's go to 315. 315, what would you like to say to Scott?
Hi, Scott. This is Fran. Really appreciate what you're doing and what the Samaritan's Purse has been doing. We were watching really close what happened in Carolinas and Tennessee with the hurricane, and they always mentioned Samaritan's Purse, and so we are so appreciative of what you are doing and what they're doing. It's interesting that Joe and I got involved with the witnesses thinking that it was a charitable organization. Well, we found out that it was the furthest thing from a charitable organization. The charity is all for them. One other thing too, you mentioned about why don't the witnesses get involved with helping other people? And I had a thought that they really try to keep the witnesses very closed, because if they started helping other people, they might, talk with worldly people, and then they might find out about all the abuses in the Watchtower. And they certainly wouldn't want to do that because, like you said, they've got this clean image, and they want to keep that clean image.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your kind words, Fran. I kind of feel like my contribution is so small, and yet it takes a lot of small contributions by many thousands of people to make such a ministry like Samaritan's Purse operate. And we're just so grateful. I'm grateful just to be a part of it. It's been a blessing for me to go and work there and to be on the phones as I was for the disaster response, talking to people whose houses are damaged, whose houses are flooded. They told me their stories. I prayed with them. And one of the things I learned also there at the call center is long after the news had stopped covering the stories of what was going on in the flooded out areas, the hurricane affected areas, there were still people needing help. And as I said, will be for years. Samaritan's Purse knows how these things go. Franklin told us we would be there probably for around 3 years, continuing to help people. It's continuing even to this day. We still need volunteers. In fact, again, because the press has moved on, the number of volunteers has finally dropped off. We still need people to volunteer. There's the relief efforts are still ongoing out there. Now, as for the Watchtower, I think you've got something there. I guess we're speculating as to their motives. One of the things that I was wondering is, could it be that they would say something like, well, the end is coming so soon. These are the last of the last days. So what's important is not feeding people and helping out those who are less fortunate, but we got to get the gospel out here at the last minute. And so that's the most important thing for us to do. I just wonder if that's an excuse that they would they would use.
Yeah, interesting. That's really interesting. Could you just tell us, Scott, if anyone wanted to make a donation, or if they wanted to go down to the Carolinas or Tennessee and physically help them, where would be the best place to find that information?
Yeah, the best place would be to go to their website, SamaritansPurse.org. There you can find information on how to make a donation, how to volunteer, if you want to participate in Operation Christmas Child. By the way, speaking of Operation Christmas Child, there are 8 processing centers around the country. And even now, every day when I go to work, there are hundreds of volunteers that come to our processing center to pack shoe boxes and put them together. In fact, I'd like to show a video. Rick, if you can get my screen share. Again, this is for those who are watching on YouTube, but you can always go watch it later if you're not there. I'd like to share this video that I took of the processing center just to give you some idea.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Fran. Yeah, just go to there to SamaritansPurse.org. So there's so much good information there. They have a phone number, an 800 number. I could see if I can get that number while we're waiting for the video to load and read that out over the air. So I guess
let's see if we can add that. Hold on,
all
Scott.
right. Okay. So here is actually I guess that's not the video. Here's the video of the processing center. This is a time lapse that I took. It's not that long because I was on a break. I had about 15 minutes and I just shot video, but you can see the level of activity, and this isn't even the whole warehouse. I'll show it again. You can see there are forklifts off to the right at the back that are taking the packed shoe boxes out to the dock to be loaded onto trucks, to be loaded onto planes, which are going to go flying all over the world. But in the center, people are packing shoe boxes, and they put them, those little shoe boxes into bigger boxes, and the big boxes go on these conveyor belts, and the boxes are pushed to the side. So it's just a busy warehouse. It looks like a beehive, if that's what you're seeing. Indeed, that's what's going on. Here's some more pictures of people. Now, one of the things that we do in the processing center, once an hour, they will stop the people who are working there and say, hold up your shoe boxes, let's pray over them. So what you can see here is people holding up their shoe boxes in the air because they're having a group prayer over the shoe boxes to ask God to send them out to the right child, to make a connection, to help that child come to know Jesus so that they can have salvation. And that's just a glimpse of behind the scenes in the processing center. There's still time, perhaps, for you to go to one if there's one near you. There's only, like I said, 8 throughout the United States. So it would be a great experience if you could be able to go there. If you can't go, you might choose to donate if you want. Again, SamaritansPurse.org/OCC for Operation Christmas Child. If you want to learn more, and again, watch those stories. They're beautiful stories about children who received boxes and came to know Jesus. The one lady, she had never had a Christmas present. When she was a child, she got this shoe box and never had a present of any kind. Not a birthday present, not a Christmas present. The one lady was from Romania. She was in Ceausescu's communist Romania. She never had gotten a gift. Another lady told how she was a Muslim growing up in a Muslim country. She also had never gotten a gift, let alone a Christmas gift, obviously. So they're great stories. They're very inspiring. You can see videos of children opening their packages and the big smiles on their faces. It's a wonderful program that I'm working with in a wonderful ministry.
Well, let's go to 609. 609, go ahead. What do you have to say, 609?
This is Larry from New Jersey. A quick, important question for Scott, since he's a seminary graduate and a Christian apologist. On the one hand, you're certainly well motivated, highly motivated with love, and as you explained, It's a Christian ministry work, Samaritan's Purse, to show these people the love of Jesus and so on and so forth. But my question would be, if God is showing love to these poor, hurt people through this Christian charity, why did he even permit it, or I'm going to use the word cause it to happen in the first place? In other words, these poor innocent people who live in western North Carolina, no doubt many of them genuine, good people, Christians, probably some of them, I think some of them were killed, some were injured, some suffered, terrible hurt and harm, losing family members, losing their homes. Why would God, what kind of a loving God would permit such harm, such hurt, such evil to hit these people, and then say, oh, this is Christian love. We're going to show you the love of Jesus. I mean, does that make any sense whatsoever?
Well, Larry, you certainly asked the difficult questions. And like you say, yes, there are a lot of hurting people out there, and it's quite a tragedy. But to deal with the question of why does God allow evil in the world, that's one of the big questions that theologians have struggled with and non-theologians. By the way, the atheists have to deal with this question too. Why is there so much evil in the world? What does it mean? But according to the Christian teaching in the Bible, God didn't make the world in this fallen condition. It was man's disobedience that caused it. So all this disaster is not from God. It is from the results. It is the consequences of bad behavior. It'd be like asking, if parents have a child who's become an alcoholic or whatever, to say, why did you allow your child to fall on these hard times, whatever it was? Well, parents don't always have complete control, but God does. So what is God doing about all these things? Well, he sent his son Jesus to die to make a way for us to be reconciled to him. And because the restoration of the world is not what's important to God, but the restoration of people's souls. And all this misery is something that is left in the world. That's something that reminds us of our own fallen condition, of our sin and our need for a savior, our need for repentance, our need to connect with God, who is a loving father who didn't send all this disaster on us. And if you say, I can't respect a God who allows these bad things to happen to good people, well, that's I guess that's an issue you have to work through. As, like I said, people have been thinking about this for thousands of years.
Well, just a couple of things. One, a person notices it, especially in the Muslim community. Muslim countries like over there in Egypt, and in Palestine there, in Gaza, where they follow strict Muslim religion. And what I notice on TV news reports, these people, they strongly believe in God. They strongly believe in Allah. But you take, for example, now the tremendous hurt and pain, suffering and misery that's being inflicted on those poor people in Gaza. They're bombed out of existence. Homes, apartments smashed. I guess it's like 45,000 dead. And of that, how many children? I don't know if it's like 15 or 20,000 children and women slaughtered. And yet, at the same time, what will you observe with those people? Number one, you observe how religious they are, how much they believe in God, how much they believe in Allah, how much they thank and praise Allah. And the news reports show these Muslim people practicing Islam. After the disaster hits, the bombing, the destruction, the death, they're in tears. What do you see? I see them in the news reports. They're all standing around and praying to Allah and go through their ritual prayers and thanking Allah and so on, you would think maybe they would say, "Oh, this there must not be any God. Where is God? Where is Allah? Look, he's letting this terrible catastrophe, disaster hit us, and we have to suffer so much." You'd think maybe I would say, "Oh, there's no such thing as Allah. He's doing nothing to help us." And so too with in Christianity, we see the exact same thing. Although you want to no doubt try to apologize for God and explain it away and say, "Oh, it's not God, it's a man," or some other ones would say, "Oh, you see, it's the devil. The devil popped up, and he's causing all this mischief and hatred and suffering." But you know very well that Almighty God is the creator of the universe and the creator of the earth. That's number one. Number two, he's omnipotent and he's omniscient. And number three, he's ultimately responsible for knowingly creating people, knowingly having people come into existence. They're going to have to suffer tremendously. Although Christians like to try to make an excuse for it and say, "Oh, this reason, that reason." No, the suffering is so bad and so wrong. God himself, who's the creator and responsible and is our Father, he's responsible for this.
Wow, there's a lot of I feel a lot of anger coming off of you, Larry. I hope that you have some source of comfort for yourself, because we do live in a fallen world, and like I said, everybody needs an explanation. Now, certainly, what's going on in Israel and Gaza and Syria, all the war and destruction and death over there, that's horrific. None of that is God's will for this world. What God did in the person of Jesus is he came here and lived among us. He suffered and died. He allowed the fallenness of the world to come upon himself in order to make a way for us to know salvation. And then he taught us to love your neighbor as yourself. If the folks in Israel and Gaza and Syria and all the warring nations would follow the example of Jesus, they would show love to their neighbors rather than killing them, oppressing them, hurting them. So that's the way that God taught us to be in this world. Now, if you want to say, "Well, there's too much suffering, I can't believe that there's a God," well, what's that leave you with? If you say there's no God, or I can't get with the God thing, you're just left with a fallen or a broken, a world full of suffering and pain and death that has no purpose, no meaning, and is never going to be resolved in a good way. If the universe just dies of this heat death, it was all for nothing, because nothing will survive. And we can just say life is pointless, as many atheists have done. But I don't believe that. And then I'm kind of thinking that the fact that you're so upset about all this means you don't really deep down believe that there's no purpose, there's no meaning, there's no dignity to mankind, because you see these people suffering and your heart goes out to them. Larry, where did you learn this idea that we should care for those who are suffering and hurting, and that it's wrong to oppress and kill your neighbor? Where'd you get that idea if you want to be an atheist and just say there's no purpose, it's all just molecules fizzing?
Well, I don't know how far you want to continue this, but I'm happy to answer your question.
Okay.
The answer is very simple and very clear. Each one of us humans, each one of us are sentient beings. What do I mean by that? Well, we have our five senses. We smell, taste, feel. We have feelings in our hand, our fingers. We feel pain, sound, all that. Sentient beings. So it's built into us as sentient beings to even feel sympathy and to feel that we want to help someone who's hurt or suffering. I hate to use the word automatic, but I'm going to use the word automatic. So it's not dependent on ideology, but it's built into us as sentient human beings. even for example, we know automatically. Like if you have a little kitten or a dog or a puppy, you wouldn't torture it or stab it with a knife or hurt it. Why? Why? Is it because you learned some ideology about God, this and that and everything? No. You yourself have feelings yourself, physical feelings. So you would know that the other sentient being also has those feelings. And you want to try to I don't know, make excuses for God and somehow explain it away. I love the example you gave about the father. And that was the example I was going to use. You said, well, was the father responsible when the kids go bad when they grow up? Well, but I would ask this question. In a family where you have a loving, caring parents, you have a loving, sensible father, and he has small children, say ages 2 to 12, and he's responsible for them, and they live in his house. Would that father be showing any sort of love or responsibility or morality if he would somehow permit and let dangerous, hurtful, harmful things into his house? No, that is, if he had the power to stop it, he would. He wouldn't, let dangerous. He wouldn't risk the kids eating dangerous food or maybe falling off a balcony in the house and hurting themselves. He'd do everything he could as a loving father to provide help and care for the children which he's responsible for. But he wouldn't be like God and just turn his back on his children and say, "Oh, I don't know anything. I don't see anything."
All right, Larry, get to the point. Get to the point, okay? I mean, we're not gonna make this a religious program. So, I mean, why don't you just tell Scott right up front your position you take on the Bible? You're a deist, right?
Right.
Right. So he's a deist. So a deist is going to have some issues here that might not, fit into the Christian way of thinking. But we can't go on. This is not. If you want to come on tomorrow, Larry, and talk about this, Scott has a program tomorrow. We talk about theology. We don't do it here on Saturday night. So Scott, why don't you just wrap it up and we'll get moving on. Yep.
Yeah, well, as for Larry, I hope you can find peace someday. I found peace in Jesus Christ. He is the Prince of Peace, and I never have to apologize for God. What is meant by apology is giving a defense like you would in court. It doesn't mean saying you're sorry because something is wrong. And I never have to make excuses for God because he's the most loving being in reality. No one could show more love and has done more for humanity than God has to bring peace and comfort and even joy to people. And I hope that someday you can find that peace too. Tomorrow is a Six Screen Sunday. I have the Knowing God program. I'll be on at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Hope that you guys can tune in. We're going to talk about forgiveness, God's forgiveness, and how do we forgive ourselves? This was based on a question that Pixie asked. How do we forgive ourselves? We're going to talk about that, and we're not going to talk about what Larry wants to talk about tomorrow, but maybe on another episode we will. And then at 4 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow.
Hold on 1 second, Larry. Larry, what are you trying to say, Larry? If you really want to get into a...
I just wanted to leave with one point, because this is something that he would know about, providing this charity and aid and relief, something he didn't mention, but I wanted to ask, he would know. FEMA, F-E-M-A, are they still there? Are they doing anything? What are they doing? Are they providing what sort of help?
I've never worked for FEMA, so I can't answer that question, but I can tell you that when I was on the call center for Samaritan's Purse and was fielding calls from the people in the disaster-affected areas for Helene and Milton, I did hear occasionally the comment, FEMA's not doing anything for us. You guys are. I remember one gentleman told me they ought to defund FEMA and send all the money to you guys because what Samaritan's Purse is doing is so much bigger than FEMA. Now, I don't know. Again, I don't know what FEMA has done. So that's beyond my realm of knowledge. But I was trying to explain about tomorrow on Six Screen Sunday because Rick asked me to wrap it up, and we want other people to have their chance or to discuss the things that are supposed to be discussed on Six Screen Saturdays. So I'm trying to wrap it up. 4 o'clock tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, we're going to have the Knowing God broadcast. Also, we take questions about Christianity, questions like Larry's question. This is exactly the kind of thing that could be sent into the Christian court, and you'll get a couple different opinions from the experts that are there. And I don't even know what the questions will be tomorrow, but maybe Rick does, and we'll promo them. But I want to just remind people about SamaritansPurse.org. Go to their website. You can learn about Operation Christmas Child. You can learn about the disaster relief. You can contribute if you want to, and you can see the stories on their Samaritan's Purse TV streaming page where they have lots of inspirational behind-the-scenes stories, see what was done for the disaster relief, see the children opening their gifts and the joy that it brings, and the way that it's sending out the message of the love of Jesus all over the world. I hope that this has been a blessing, this little segment here. and come and join us tomorrow on Six Screen Sundays. God bless you guys.
Well, thank you, Scott. That's good. So Six Screen Sunday, 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, 1 p.m. right here on the Six Screens Telenetwork. Well, thank you, Scott, for coming on. And we can see the difference. The Samaritan's Purse versus the Watchtower. Thank you, Scott. We'll see you tomorrow, and we'll get some of these people in. Thank you for coming on and being with us. Thank you very much. All right. Well, my goodness, friends, we've got more programming happening here tonight on the Six Screens Telenetwork. We have got the duck. Did you call in tonight? In fact, before we do that, let's go to Carolyn. Did you want to say something?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, go ahead. If you want to say something, run with us.
Oh, okay. I've been listening to the caller, and I don't want this to continue, no. But I think a long time ago we were taught that God did not interfere in mankind's doing. Also, what the caller is looking for is divine intervention. But what we were taught, that God does not interfere, I would say that God still helps in many ways, and the Holy Spirit and all that. But yeah, we're living in bad times. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, that's good. Well, thank you, Carolyn. Thank you very much for chiming in with us here tonight. Well, we're going to go to our duck program. I mean, at least that's a segment of the program. Nobody said the secret word tonight that's in our envelope. So we're going to give you guys some clues. Now, what we'll do is we want you guys to be on the honor system. So you're going to get a point. You'll get 2 points if you answer a question, and you can get some Watchtower magnets. If you get 5 points, well, I want you guys to keep score on your own. You get 5 points tonight. You can get a book. We want to mail some books out. I got a lot of books here I want to give you. If you get 12 points, you have to keep score yourself now. If you get 12 points, you get $100. So let's ask the questions. Nobody, said the secret word. So let's get into our, let's see. Let's go over here to our Jeopardy. Where is this? Okay, just give us a second to do this. Why that disappears, I don't know. Boy, I'll tell you, friends, when you're working with the internet here, so many things can happen. Why isn't that coming up right now? All right, let's go over here. Let's get the Jeopardy. Okay, hold on 1 second. There it is right there. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to ask you some questions. If you're listening in tonight, I want you to win some prizes, friends. So what you have to do is answer the question, but don't answer the question until the music stops. When the music stops, We will give you points. We're going to give you some special points tonight. So we want people to win. We don't want losers here. So we're going to ask some questions tonight. So the first question we're going to ask the audience tonight, Charles Taze Russell, he died on a train in Pampa, Texas on 1916. On a train in Pampa, Texas, he died. What was Charles Taze Russell wrapped up in? Don't answer till the music stops.
Toga.
Linen co-op.
Toga.
All right.
Toga.
So I believe that's in Chicago. I believe that's Stefan. Stefan, I think you got it.
Yes.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
give yourself a point, okay?
Roger that.
Okay, that's good. So you got it. So you got that one in Toga. Can you tell us a little bit about that, Stefan?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I think that this really lends itself to some controversy. I don't believe that Charles Taze Russell actually died exactly on October 31st, but I think they announced it on that date because of its connection to the occult. And he asked to be wrapped in a toga, which is bizarre for a so-called Christian person to want to be wrapped up in this Roman garment with all the connotation that it has associated with it. So that in and of itself is really surprising, and people who are Watchtower witnesses really should sit back and examine their religion based on its founder and his occult connections.
Well, very good. Thank you for that little commentary. That's good. All right, so let's ask the next question. So give yourself a point, Stefan. Do that and be on the honor system. So let's ask the next question. Next question. So the Watchtower. I mean, seriously, we know that they have an occult connection, but there's so many things we could talk about concerning the occult connection. So if someone can just name two, we're going to give you a point. Hold on, don't answer till the music stops. So name two. Hold on one second. Name two situations where the Watchtower would be involved in the occult. Two situations. Go ahead.
Channeling and pyramidology.
Oh, very good.
So I'll go with the pyramidology, but JP, I'm wondering about the channeling. Explain that.
Well, the channeling, like going back to like Rutherford and that, he thought he was like channeling angels, and then all the way up to the modern time, they say that they're Jehovah's channel, which the word channeling, it has more to do with the occult and spiritism, like you're channeling a spirit, than it has to do with the Bible, because there is no part in the Bible where Jehovah was channeling to Moses or channeling, Christ was channeling to the Apostle Paul or something. So I think that's an occult thing besides the pyramidology stuff. And there's a lot of more things too, but those were the two things off the top of my head.
Well, we're going to give that to you, JP. And I see that you did get some points. You get some books coming. I see the email you sent me. So we'll get those books out. I'll mail out this week, okay? It might take a couple of weeks to get there because of Christmas, okay?
No problem, Rick. Thank you. I'm up to 2 points on this new series of duck games.
All right. So hold on to that. You get 12 points. You get $100. Okay. So anyways, let's go on here. Let's ask another question, but don't answer till the music stops. Okay. What I want you to do, when we went to conventions, there was always a theme. There was always a theme for the conventions. What I want you to do, you want to come on here. I'm going to give you 2 points. 2 points. If you can name just two just 2 convention themes. Don't answer till the music stops. Okay, name.
Deliverance at hand, give God glory.
Divine purpose and divine sovereignty.
Okay, let's go with JP. JP, what'd you say first?
I said deliverance at hand and then give God glory. And the reason why I remembered deliverance at hand was because that was the first convention that I went to, I believe, when I was 23 years old, when I got reinstated, because I was disfellowshipped at 19. So it was actually a big deal. And at the time, this is probably like 2011 or 12, and the convention theme was deliverance at hand, and it's been well over. No, it was before that. It was probably like 2007 or 8, I think, deliverance at hand. But nonetheless, I was reinstated. But it was that long ago when they said deliverance was at hand, and it's been well over 15 years.
Well, there you go, JP. So that's good. So I'm going to ask another question. I'm going to give 5 points. 5 points for the next question. If someone can answer it, there's only going to be one guess at it. So I'm going to give 5 points for this next question. JP, you take the points you have and write them down. 5 points for the next question. What was the theme for the 1969 convention in New York City at Yankee Stadium? Don't answer till the music stops. What was the theme for the 1969 convention where 120,000 Jehovah's Witnesses showed up in New York at Yankee Stadium? Can anyone remember that theme? We mentioned it numerous times here on the 6 screens. 5 points. 5 points. Anyone take a...
Stay alive until 1975.
No, it's not that. It's not that. Can someone remember that theme in 1960? It was one of the biggest. It was one of the biggest conventions the Witnesses ever had. Go ahead, sister. Did you have a thought?
Yes, it's Peace on Earth.
Peace on Earth. Who was that?
Nicole.
Nicole. Take 5 points. Okay, 5 points.
Thank you.
And Nicole, you got some stuff coming too. It's just a little late getting out to you, but you got some stuff coming too. Okay, so take 5 points. How'd you know that, Nicole?
Because I had all the those what do you call it? The program. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really surprised you got that. My goodness, that's good. That was a hard question. That was very, very hard. Very hard.
I just went through all my programs.
All right. Okay, so let's do one more question, then we're going to go to Dick and Constant Borgie. So the next question is, Jehovah's Witnesses always throughout in conversation among the congregations, there was blood in certain foods. Can someone tell me, I need 3 foods or 3 entities, business establishments, that the Watchtower said there was blood in their food? I need 3 establishments. It's good for 2 points here on the 6 screens. Don't answer until the music stops. Okay, so
Blood, sausage, plywood, and vaccines.
Okay, but plywood doesn't account as a food.
Oh, you said only food? I thought you said products. I'm sorry.
Food. Yeah, it's going to be food. What? Sorry, Stefan.
How about
I
blood sausage, blood pudding, and vaccines?
Well, let's hold on. We'll give some people another chance. You get your first shot.
Yes, sir.
So, what foods did the Watchtower say there would be blood in? You want to take a shot? Go ahead.
Did they used to say Heinz ketchup, Rick? Because I heard that.
No, not Heinz. Well, I'm gonna give you a clue. I'm gonna give you another clue. It was an ice cream stand. What ice cream stand? Ice cream.
Baskin Robbins.
No, what?
31 flavor.
No. What? So, what ice cream store? The Watchtowers. Dairy Queen. You got it, Robert. That's good. All right.
Oh, thank
All right, but okay, I need.
I don't have the other two. I don't have the other two. Blood pudding and
Yeah.
blood sausage.
Yeah, no, we can't give it to you. And thank you, by the way,
I
for
know.
being a good sport last week. Yeah,
Thank you,
I
Rick.
appreciate that, Robert. I thank you for what you did too. I won't go into elaboration here tonight, but that's good.
Sure thing, brother.
Oh, thank you. All right. So, what foods? I mean, come on now. What? I mean, I'm going to name a candy. What candy did the Watchtower say there was blood in? Can you remember? It was no. It had a brown wrapper.
Baby Ruth.
No, we all loved it. It was chocolate bar, and it was what type of a chocolate bar?
Clark bar.
No.
Was it Hershey's?
It was Hershey's. Yes, Hershey's. Yes, you got a Constance. Take a point for that. Yeah.
Milky Way.
No.
Well, wait a minute. Do I get 2 points for blood sausage and blood pudding?
No, you don't. You get a point for blood sausage. You get a point for blood sausage. All right.
Okay. All right.
So what? Okay. So
Hey,
what?
Rick, just to give a quick story, real quick. The witnesses where I used to live in California, they used to say that Heinz ketchup had blood in it, so a lot of the witnesses used to buy Hunt's.
Yeah, well, different areas had
Just a
different.
rumor, obviously they don't have they used to, and they specifically said it has pork's blood in it.
Yeah. Well, they did all kinds of
But that was
things.
just a rumor.
Yeah, all kinds of crazy things. So tell me now, and here's another thing, but don't answer till the music stops. What liquor did Jehovah's Witnesses say there was blood in? All right, what liquor?
McClellan?
Well, I think maybe it's not a liquor, but what alcoholic beverage did witnesses once say, that is the Watchtower, once say there was blood in it?
Bloody Mary.
No. It's a good guess, though. Bloody Mary, that's a good guess.
Clamato. I'm just kidding.
What alcoholic beverage? I mean, you guys should know this one. This is pretty popular. No. What alcoholic beverage did the witnesses think, or at least the Watchtower suggested there was blood in it, according to No. I'm surprised. This is easy. In fact, I'll tell you what.
David wine.
It was wine, Robert. Yes, it was wine. Robert, take a point. It was wine. Yeah, they said there was blood in wine. Yeah, jeez. I mean,
in the Bible.
yeah. So another question, and don't answer it till the music stops. Okay, what meat product did witnesses once say there was blood in?
blood sausage.
Well, we talked about blood sausage, but it would be different than that because we already answered that. But this has to do with it's an all-American meat.
Hamburger.
No,
Bacon.
no. You usually put it.
Liver worse.
You usually put it. You usually put it in a bun with mustard.
Bologna.
Yeah, hot dogs.
Hot dogs.
Salami.
I think. I think Dick's got it. Hot dogs, Dick. I think you got it. Give your
Diggity dog.
give yourself a point. All right. Good. I mean, we could go on and on with this stuff. People love the duck game. They really do. People come in like crazy for this. But anyways,
Hey, Rick.
yes.
Were they Hebrew national ones?
Well,
Sure. I guess that wasn't kosher, right?
well,
I'm just joking.
I mean, geez, what really, when you stop and think about it, can you imagine belonging to a religion that put all this regulation on you? Geez, how do we ever survive? Don't eat this, don't do that. Geez, there might be blood in this. Geez, how in goodness sake did we ever survive being Jehovah's Witnesses? That's what I wonder. Just crazy.
It's a wiener.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, Dan, I mean, I know you and Angela, you survived through all of this, but geez, I'll tell you, the pressure. I mean, life is tough enough. Life is tough enough without the Watchtower coming along and telling you certain foods to eat. Don't eat that. Don't eat that. Don't do that. Geez, we were so conscious all the time. It's ridiculous. Nuts. Yeah. In fact, it made life. In fact, I have to tell you, I'm out of it now, as most of you guys are as well. What a feeling of relief. What a feeling of freedom. Jeez, I mean, how could you live like this? But we did it.
It doesn't feel good being micromanaged. We micromanage ourselves enough, let alone going to the Kingdom Hall every week and having them tell us all the things we didn't do. We gossiped. We did this. We didn't do enough service. It was a trip.
It makes you wonder where the religion was such a hell that if anybody ever got a judicial committee for eating a hot dog.
Well, no, it gets to the point when you stop and think about it, it becomes humorous. How, in goodness name's sake,
did 3 elders for that one?
Yeah, how did we ever allow people to take control of our mind like that? We didn't know how to think straight. Geez, what could you do? Yeah.
Rick, that's why many of us lived a double life.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't handle it. I mean, your mind was just was completely.
That's why when people were out, by themselves or with other, at work, they did things differently. It was a double life. So you were one way at the hall and with your friend, people that you knew that were witnesses, and then you were another way with maybe people at school or at work.
I mean, that would be enough. That would be enough, Nadine, to cause a person to go crazy. Jeez, huh?
The defense mechanism is split off from herself. It's actually surviving because the amount of pressure that puts on us to be managed like that is, like you said, it's incomprehensible. So most of us did compartmentalize. They call it compartmentalization. We split off. We enjoyed our altar, our altar reality. We had an altar in the hall where we acted one way, and we had this other part that had to breathe, That's a good point.
Well, Dan, it's just absolutely nuts how we all behave. It's crazy stuff going on.
Hey, Rick, you want to talk about nuts real quick? You were
Yeah.
saying, this is JP. I just wanted to give a quick comment about this. I didn't get to call in earlier, but you were talking about earlier when you used to salute the flag, or we'd cover it up as like going to school when we were kids, and you said you used to place your hand on your belly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't know. Every time the Pledge of Allegiance would happen when I was up until high school, I don't know, I always had an overwhelming itch on my left shoulder when the when the Pledge of Allegiance would start. I would just, I don't know, my left shoulder always just seemed to feel really itchy, and I just had to scratch it until the Pledge of Allegiance was gone, and then was finished, and then all of a sudden the itch went away.
See, this is all, sometimes mental issues create physical issues, JP. I mean, really, I mean, we were all, I'm not going to say we're all mentally crazy, but my God, some of the things we believed in the Watchtower. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, that was a big jump. Yeah, I have an itchy shoulder, so my hand's not over my heart. I got my left shoulder's always itchy. I don't know. Every time they start the Pledge of Allegiance, I just got an itchy left shoulder. I don't know.
Yeah.
I had to compartmentalize one time when I remember going in this guy's house and he slammed the door, and when I got in, there was a shotgun behind the door, and he says, something really pissed me off today. And I said, yeah, what happened? He says, I was at the stadium, and when they said the national anthem, these people didn't stand up. I split right in two. I said, oh, I stand up all the time. You know what I mean? I didn't put my hand over my heart, but I said, oh, I stand up all the time. I mean, my God, we had to survive in there. You know what I mean? You don't go into a VFW all and say, I don't salute the flag. I mean, we were risking our lives every moment in there for every belief we had. But I remember wishing I could transport when I was in that guy's house. Like, how the hell did I get in here? And what am I going to do now? This guy's a nut, Anyway, boy, we've been in some situations, haven't we?
Oh, Dan.
What about the birthday cupcake situation? That was horrible too. And what about wearing a cross necklace? Like, because, like I have one now that has my brother's ashes in it. And so I wear it, but it's like, oh my God, I hope I don't run into anybody that, was a witness and they see me wearing it. It's just ridiculous. All the stuff that is left with us, even though we've been out, it's too much.
Well, when we look back now, Nadine, it's foolish. I can remember even going to sporting events with my mother and my father. My father was not a witness, but my mother was. And then the sporting event, of course, they would play the national anthem. And so my mother would say, okay, Ricky, okay, I was a young kid. Okay, Ricky, let's get up now. We got to go to the men's room or the ladies' room. I say, well, why, Mom? She says, well, because they're going to play the national anthem and we got to get out of here. I mean, jeez. This is crazy stuff, right?
What about candles on a birthday cake? That's really bad because it's supposed to, it's supposed to mean that, when you blow them out, you're blowing away the demons or whatever. It's like unbelievable, everything. And like, it's so funny because where I live, there's a witness that she's elderly. She lives across from me. So, but she has this lady that comes to help her, and she, goes to the Kingdom Hall. So every time I wear my cross necklace, if I see her, I go, oh, and I have to like put my necklace to the back because I don't want her to see it. It's so bad.
Well, we look back, Nadine, it's so foolish. Hey, Dick, what do you have to say, Dick?
What was I going to tell you? I had a situation years ago when Mark Palo gave me 4 tickets to the Celtics game he got from his radio station he did work for, and I brought 3 elders with me to a Celtic game. And one of the elders said, well, as soon as they go to play the national anthem, let's go up and get a beer. And I was thinking, gee, we had an opportunity to sit in the chairs. Maybe someone would say something, and we could witness to it. But, oh, no, let's get up and get the beers right now during the anthem. Go up the stairs and back to the back of the Boston Gardens and get the beers.
Yeah.
So we chickened out.
Well, Dick, that's crazy stuff. As you look back now, you're saying, my goodness, the pressure that the witnesses put on us, how could we even function? But now that we're out, it's so much easier. Okay. So, anyways, all right. So, anyways, I think we should end it here. We got Dick and Constance. They're coming out next. They got a program. It's going to be all about marriage in the Watchtower. So, I think you're going to enjoy that. Friends, I want to thank you all for coming in here tonight to JW World News. I want you guys to keep standing tall. I don't want you to ever give in, give up, or give out. And the last one, leaving the Watchtower, please turn off the new light. Let's end the program here. We got Dick and Constance coming up next, right here on the Six Screens Tele Network. Let's end it here. All right.